Welcome to the Not So Tender podcast. This is number 9. A fine German number.
Okay.
Well, it is, right? That's their best number.
Okay.
I agree. I don't know whose sport figures that you would think of that's number 9. Do you know, like,
I don't
your
follow sports.
Really? Last week you said your favorite
You did.
numbers were because of.
Well, when I was
You did.
little, I don't have time to follow.
Come on.
I have 5 kids.
How many fantasy basketball teams do you follow or like on?
That's
So
statistics, though.
to be honest,
Oh, shit.
when the hospital emails out like, "Hey, we're doing this," I'm like, "Sure," and I just click shit, and it goes through, and I never win because I don't follow it anymore.
Oh, you should.
I know.
All right,
I
so
almost felt like I would have been good at fantasy football. Not because I get it, but because I'm good at numbers.
So I played it the first year, had no idea. The second year I won. They hated me. I only picked people with Q's and apostrophes in their names.
Did you do well?
I won.
I bet.
I'm not joking. So, anyways,
Statistics.
podcast number 9. Yeah. Well, it just worked. I figured those people had a hard life and they needed to work hard.
They were
have a
creative.
career.
They've-
Seriously.
They have creative families.
We have a special guest here. Her name's Jennifer.
Hi.
She's a wonderful human.
Hi.
Hi, Jennifer here. No, Jennifer there. This is what I always ask Kelly. Hard week or medium week?
Because you know I don't have easy weeks.
Never once have you had
Never
an
once
easy
have
week.
I had an easy week. So this week I've had an easy week.
No.
Yeah.
Why? Because you had a day off?
I had 2 days off,
What?
Monday and Tuesday. I went away on a trip,
Yeah.
and now it's summer break. So kids
It's chill.
don't want to be dead as much.
As
True-
much.
true
It's
story.
True. We talked about that through spring break.
True story. So I've only worked Wednesday, Thursday.
And it was
Tomorrow I fly out to Florida.
decent. What? You are just jet skidding around. Got a
Well
new dog
done.
this week.
Thank you. Well done.
I got a new dog this week.
She's super in love with. What's her name again?
Bubble Guppy.
So if you guys want to see a picture of her dog, we might post it. If you won't be weird
She's
about it.
beautiful. She's so sweet.
You love her?
Yes. She's so calm. She's 6.5. She's a rescue. She was a breeder that retired.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
a girl like that in college.
Did her nipples hang low?
Sometimes.
They do.
That's why people loved her. I'm just kidding.
No,
Kinda.
you're not.
I'm not. So not that hard of a week?
No.
What
Good.
about, well, I didn't see you last week.
That's true.
So what about last week?
So last week was rougher.
Yeah, see.
End of the school year.
Brutal.
Finals.
Oof.
Am I going to graduate? I didn't graduate. People are still butthurt about prom.
Really?
Yeah.
I am too. I never
Butthurt
went.
about prom.
Never went. I kind of want to go to an adult prom, but not right now because I'd be by myself.
I
They
do.
had emo prom.
And then I see people posting their pictures, and I think, I don't want to share that with them. So it would have to be like a
It's just
specific
you?
group of people.
Oh my God. So you're going to
You
relive your prom?
dancing under a disco ball.
Jesus. Control.
Eat it.
So last week was a little harder. I had some interesting clients myself.
Yeah.
We did there's a lot of stuff going on.
Was there a theme?
I think it's hitting them. Like summer's hitting them. Like, oh man, I didn't get the shit done I needed to get done. I've had a lot of positive responses from the podcast where people are telling me that they're learning some things. The fair fighting thing really hit people pretty hard, you know, and they're talking about it. And it seems like a huge struggle. And I've also found myself being very bitter in the last week.
Individually?
Myself, yeah. Where I'm just like this, man.
What are you so pissed about?
Well, I'm kind of tired of people's shit. I'm kind of. Well, I'm saying
Same.
no. What I'm saying is like they'll say that something really bothers them because I keep hearing people say that they want to be a priority in someone's life, and I'm really struggling to understand that because when I ask them what does that mean, they can't even tell me, and I use what you said and said, what does that look like to you? I like that. What
Yeah.
does that look? Because I want to know.
In reality.
But you're
magic
mad at
wand.
somebody-
Like, what does
Honestly,
that look like?
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because I have never thought that.
But you've said it,
Ever.
right?
I've never said I wanted anyone. I didn't want to be a priority in anyone's
You're
life.
like that means I got to make you a priority,
Yeah.
and I'm out.
Well, priority is such a hard.
Right.
term.
But if you're
It's-
demanding to be a priority,
Then ew.
what does that mean?
Not gonna work.
For someone like me, probably not.
I want you to stop everything you're doing to hear about my day.
A priority is a lot different than the top priority.
Now, where do you
So-
think people fall? Do you think people fall more into the complete, like, you need to always make me a priority over everything else?
Yeah.
Does that sound healthy?
No. But as we've talked about in previous podcasts, I truly believe that that's a societal thing and
Yeah.
a generational thing of we went from your spouse checking these boxes of being a provider and a partner and,
Reasonable.
a home, sure, to they're supposed to be your everything, your soulmate, your best friend, the best sex you've ever
So
had,
unreasonable.
an amazing partner, a fantastic father or mother, a provider. Like the list has gotten so much longer. And on top of all of that, this big long list, I want to come first.
Can you imagine living up to that expectation?
You can't. You can't. You need it. The saying is that it takes a village to raise a child. I feel like it takes a village to make a whole person.
Well, I get something different from these boys than I would a mate.
Thank
You know what I
God.
mean? And like,
right, yeah.
I
But you
couldn't
can't
expect the same from her to make me feel the
No.
way my friends for 20 some years have made me feel. But when I hear people, because they've been coming in the shop, and I hear them, and well, he just never made me a priority. And I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Right.
And they can't answer it.
It means he was married.
Well, he's definitely making you a
It
priority.
came second to
Yeah.
the missus.
As you should know your place. If you're a side piece, be a side piece.
But I
you
guess-
knew it going into it, unless he was lying to you about, or she was lying to you about being married.
But I also think that's very disrespectful to what the other person has going on. So I
100%.
would never think like you need to prioritize me over your children, your jobs, your sick parents, whatever you have going on.
No.
Do you think, because this is kind of going right into what we're going to talk about, is how you're raised. If you never felt like a priority by your parent, by your father, by your mother, or both, is that why you demanded out of your mate?
No.
Because I didn't want to be a priority to my family like that. I didn't want.
Same.
You know what I mean?
That is true for some people. Like
I
some
see that.
clients that I meet with.
Seems to be repetitive.
Yeah, some clients that I meet with, they did not get their childhood needs met. And so they are looking for, I'm going to use the word like parental figure. It sounds unhealthy. It is unhealthy, but they're still looking to have somebody validate their worth
That's
in a way
hard.
that they didn't get met as a child. But my dad worked his ass off. We've talked about that.
Right, right.
He did well to validate my worth and also have priorities to provide for our family that also added to our worth. So I think modeling is important. There's a lot of clients that I work with where their dad worked all the time and was literally like not present. A lot of moms that went through partner after partner after partner looking for validation and worth, and so their children kind of fell to the wayside because of their own
Their
needs.
parents were too busy in their own shit. It's
And
funny
then-
that if you're, you want somebody to honor you, but you're not honoring your kid the same way your parents didn't honor you, or some weird stuff like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, why are you doing the same shit that made you uncomfortable from your own parent? And you can honor both. And you said it, before about there's that fairness and like what's expected. If somebody needs something, you have to attend to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it can't be all constant, that constant need to be praised, or that constant need, like when I ask people what's the most important thing, we talk about that a lot. What's important to you in a relationship, and they can't explain it. And then when they'll say one simple thing, and I go, "Can you explain that?" And they go, I don't know. And I'm like, then how is that important to you? I'm getting frustrated. That's when I say I'm bitter. Because I'm like, everybody wants this beautiful relationship, but they've done no research in their own heart,
Well, you
in their
haven't
own
done the
head.
work on it. So you're
You're right.
coming in without having done the work. But
But
then when you're in a
expecting it.
relationship, understanding that then, and that comes to light, then how do you work past that?
Is it insufferable? It becomes insufferable.
It can. It's possible to, like, I have a few couples that I would not work with until they did their own individual therapy. you need to know what you're bringing to the table. You need to know what your damage is. You need to know what your needs are and what
Right.
your love language is and what your conflict style is. And nobody, if you look statistically at when people are getting married, people in their late teens, 20s, early 30s, they've nobody sat them down and were like, what you should do is like make a resume of all your crap that you're bringing. They're in it. They're in the thick of it, usually with children. And now things are falling apart because having children is hard. And now you have to prioritize somebody else. You have to prioritize somebody else.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. So they come to marriage therapy and they're like, we screwed up. And I'm like, The good news is you're not alone. I mean,
No, it's pretty normal. Nobody
Most
talks
couples
about it.
don't. No, most couples don't have like deep conversation about their religious views or their spiritual views. They're still young enough that they're like either super dedicated or super pissed, but like all of that teases out. We had that conversation. All that teases out in your 20s. And now you're 30 something and your views are very different than when you were 20.
Yeah, you
Your
calm down.
parenting styles are very different. Yeah, you're not.
Yeah, reality kicks in.
Yeah.
The whole fairy tale shit is out the window. Some, and some
Sure.
not. I heard a conversation today about a couple that was breaking up, and they looked happy forever, and he immediately, like, when she says, "Hey, I'm not happy. I don't want to do this anymore," he's like, "Okay, well, I mean, if I take this and you take that," and it came across real like, and I go, "That's because they don't have any shit, bad shit. They're both very competent, smart, hardworking, like very stable humans." And we look at it as like, well, then he doesn't love her. I'm like, no, he's being realistic. Like, she's not happy. Apparently, I'm not
I
good
think
either.
That's very deep love. I can let you go.
Respect.
I get it. I love you
Appreciation.
so much that I also don't want you to suffer in this relationship.
Correct.
Well, so that's way healthier than. So what I've noticed is, even through my own breakup shit, is people that don't have a lot of trauma and a lot of like static all the time, they cut it off very quickly because they're very smart about it. And they're like, okay, well, they're going to kill it. Where if it's crazy all the time, they will stay together. They will fight with each other. They will go to jail for each other and get back together. Like,
Yeah. Well, they're used to being on that roller coaster, or they've witnessed that roller coaster. So I would say that it's an unfair statement to say like anybody who doesn't have like quote unquote trauma. But first, trauma is relative,
yes.
right? Like
You
I'm
never
learning
know.
that.
Just because people
you
have a
and
lack
I-
of like in your face trauma
Yeah.
doesn't mean they didn't
I think
have
they just grew
severe
apart.
neglect.
I think they allowed each other to be each other to the point where they kind of just lost track of that. They didn't want to step on each other's toes so much that it just kind of grew apart.
Yeah.
A quiet quit.
Yeah, that's a good one. Quiet Quit. That's my next band name. It just scares me, you know what I mean? Because I had a young couple and they're working on it, man. They're young. They're like 19. And she came from a super traumatic family and he came from a very stable family. And she goes, in the very beginning, I was crazy. If he didn't message me back, I was losing my shit. And then I realized, like, he's not doing anything. And she came to grips with it and was like,
is my
he's
stuff,
good,
yeah.
and he's good. And like you could see it, like she was working through it. And it was very interesting. And I showed her the fair fighting rules. And she goes, we do this. And she's looking at it. She's like, baby, we do this. We do this. And I was like, you guys give me hope at 19 that you guys are like being remotely stable. You know what I mean? And she was talking about she keeps her stuff really neat and clean. And he like leaves dishes around or something. He's a really wonderful young man, like super good. Like actually like a step above most young men, honestly. And I go, is mama always clean up after him? I know his mama. You know what I mean? And she goes, yep. And I go, and you're going to clean up after him too? And I looked at him, I said, you should probably pick up some dishes though, because you're really good and that'll just put you like one click above. And he's like, okay, because he's reasonable. Yeah. You know what I mean? But his mom always cleaned up after him because that gave her purpose and she enjoyed you know what I mean? That's her baby. So I could see it and she, but it was neat watching that young couple just kind of like talking about it openly and like just, it was nice because she was talking about another girlfriend she had that's like being a little crazy. You know what I mean? And she's like, girl,
Yeah,
he's
but
not doing
at that
anything.
age, your hormones are still raging.
I know, but that trust thing and all that shit, like, I can't imagine. We talk to all the time about being tracked. You know, like where somebody can always expect you to answer your phone, and if you don't answer your phone, like what were you doing? It's like nobody likes to be talked to that way.
No, I just
You
don't think
know?
anyone should have a serious relationship until they're like in their late 20s at least.
Yeah, she says 30.
30.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have kids till you're 30.
No, well,
'Cause you don't-
screw the
you-
pooch on that.
What? Same.
Yeah. You know what?
Same.
Can you
Right.
give them back?
But I will say they are the only people I unconditionally love and like. So to be
Because
quite honest,
unconditional love flows down.
I love my children.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
They're not the hardest part of relationships. It's the other adults.
It gets made into that because they want to tug in, like
Because
the
they
other
want to
adults
be a
want
priority.
Yes.
Well, yes.
And I understand that to a point. Now, if your kids are demanding, like, you need to pick me over your husband, or you need, like, then you go, wait a fucking minute. Listen, I'm going to do what's right for everybody involved. I'm not picking, you know what I mean? Like, if it's being unreasonable, I'm not picking shit. Like, you're not going to demand that out of me. Nobody is. My kids, no one's going to demand me to, like,
Right.
take sides over some dumb shit.
Well, no, you deserve your own autonomy in a relationship.
Right.
Well, and so in family therapy, so doing marriage counseling specifically or family counseling specifically, we go to like, I wish we had a whiteboard, but
do
like the
Chef.
pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Your higher power is the top. Most people have some sort of like
A spiritual
purpose or spiritual or religious something. That's supposed to come first. Next, so if there's one on the top, there's two on the next rung. That's you and your spouse, you and your partner.
Yeah.
After that comes your children. After that comes your extended family. After that comes your work, your hobbies, your whatever. Like,
Yeah.
so I meet with a lot of families or couples where they're going through that blended family thing, where they're like, well, my kids are, my forever. They're always going to be my kids.
We're all in that position.
And,
Yeah.
and I challenge, and I do, I'm like, in my way is not the right way, but this specific theory says that like your partner is supposed to be forever. Not that your kids like get
Well, that's
thrown
what
to
you're
the
shooting
dumpster. Right. But you need to make this partnership, our priority.
Okay, but that
Just
word
not
of priority is a
drastically.
different
I
kind of
know,
thing.
right.
And I do believe in that. I do believe that, because here's the thing. Once your kids are grown, I mean,
It's
shit,
just
once your
you.
kids are 12, they're closing the door behind you.
Yeah.
And, like, you're going to be looking at a stranger and not loving your husband or wife because you put them, I mean, we've seen that. We've all seen that shit, too.
Yeah. I have couples right now that I'm working with that have littles. I think I've touched on this before. Littles are hard
Yeah.
through like elementary school. And then everybody always asks me, they're like, does it get easier? And I'm like,
No,
no,
it doesn't. I have a
It
20-year-old. Never gets easier.
different. They're not as dependent for lunches, bathrooms, nighttime, but now they need you to drive you all over the place.
It's
They
a
need you to-
different kind of
it's
thing.
a different kind of dependence.
Yeah.
But I have families that I'm working with where one of the spouses is like, we just have to make it until we don't have kids. Like we're in the trenches. We just need to make it to the other side. And I think it's interesting clinically to me that usually the other spouse is like, I don't want to wait until we're there, because like then what? Then
really
all of
hate
our
each other.
kids are gone. I don't even know you.
Yeah.
We have no
You're cheating on
core-
each other.
We don't have any core foundation.
Well, you are. I mean,
What-
I've seen it 1,000 times.
physically, intimately, emotionally, you have strayed. There's infidelity there in some capacity, whether it's with a coworker, a
Something.
best friend, a something.
Yeah.
And so I often have spouses that are like, I don't want to wait. Like, I know that this is hard, but there has to be a better way to do this.
It takes work.
It does take work.
It does take work, and I've noticed it because somebody can only take so much. They can only eat so much shit. They can almost only like you'll give somebody enough clearance. Like, okay, she's going through some shit. We just had a baby. He's going through some
Tolerable
shit.
misery.
Yes,
That's what we're asking.
but you can't just make them eat shit for year upon year upon year and
As
not,
the plan.
and then
Like, sometimes
then
that's a
like just
plan.
dole it out like, well, I did that. Like, really? Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't just mow your grass once a year.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't just do your laundry once a year. Like, I don't understand why it becomes such a... And it's because of all the little things that you don't do around the fucking house or you don't notice or whatever, and then, use it
Well,
as...
and blended families are difficult because you have the way that you parent and the way that you have reared and your whole backstory, and you have this other person's backstory, and you weren't there for what they did or what they put someone else through either.
Right.
And it does trickle into your life, and you're like, oh, didn't anticipate that
Right.
from you.
This is how
Or,
I
oh,
have always handled it.
that's how you
and
would
now
handle that
You want to handle it this
conflict.
way. Mhm.
Weird.
And they don't know the backstory of your kid. They think they do, but you know it deeper. It'd be like me telling you how to treat your mother, and you're gonna go, that doesn't fucking work with my mom.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, cause you know, like I've tried every angle with my mother.
Right.
That's not gonna fucking work.
Well, I have a story.
Let's go.
So my youngest, big theater kid, and she tried out for the Cleveland Orchestra Children's Prep Choir and got in, thinking it would be this really cool
Wow,
thing.
right, yeah.
Had some kids from school doing it. Got pretty deep into it, close to their concert, and was just not feeling it. Hated it. Was going, but hated it. And then when you miss, for some reason, if you're sick or whatnot, you have to call in and leave a voicemail practicing the song. Some of these songs are in French or in Spanish. Youngest is freaking out, like having a panic attack. She would dial the number, tell her name, and then start crying and hang up. And it went on for like an hour. And I was like, listen, we'll just go early to your next practice. You can do it face to face, whatever. We had to do that twice. And the second night, she's going through it. And I walked in and I said, listen, why don't we just not go back? It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't let everyone down.
Oh my
And
god.
I'm like, do you hate it? She's like, I hate it. I go, what do you like about it? And she's like, I like eating Wendy's with you on Tuesday night before we go. It's like, we will fucking get Wendy's every Tuesday. We never have to go back.
Right.
Hang up. She's good. Him and I argue about it.
Really.
He's like, you should have at least made her go through. Like, stick it out. I'm like, she's
Because she signed up. She's
Hysterical.
dedicated. Right, yeah.
it's like, this child.
She wasn't just being lazy on her iPad.
This child
You
is
know what I mean?
brilliant and tests very high. We have no problems. I never have any problems with her. If she doesn't want to do choir, so fucking what? It's
Yeah.
not a failure if you hate it.
Right.
It's not mandatory. You
Right.
hate it.
It's not at the end of this is in the beginning of it, right?
It was like
Middle.
middle
Okay.
to late. So I get an email from the choir director because they received all of those voicemails. And it broke her heart. But she was also doing a welfare check, as she should, because my
That was
child
sweet.
was like crying, saying,
On the
I hate
voicemail,
my
right, yeah.
life, hanging up. Explained the whole thing to her. She completely understood. And yet he still wanted to argue about it.
Even though she got a green light from the like
As if it
administration.
matters. I pay for it.
Well, but I mean,
can
but
stop
still,
paying for
but
it.
it's
Yeah.
it is a thing. Like if your kid starts a sport and they're supposed to, like, there's a certain
We
thing.
don't have to push our kids to do things that they
No,
hate just
no.
because.
My daughter didn't the
As
first
an adult,
year.
I don't do things I hate.
No, the first
Yeah.
year of baseball for my grandson, it was like t-ball, and he just hated it. He absolutely hated it. And she goes, "Then we're done."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I
Yeah.
understand that we were taught like you finish what you start,
Yeah, you're part of a team.
Ish.
Yeah.
ish. But like,
Within
if she's having a
reason.
fucking panic attack, or
Panic
she's having a
attack?
full
We're not doing
meltdown,
it.
and she
Yeah.
normally doesn't,
Yeah.
yes,
She's
And
pretty calm.
there you
Sure.
go. Now, if your kid's always starting some shit and then just being lazy, because you know when a kid's being lazy, you know when a
Oh,
kid's
yeah.
like
I
going,
don't have these kids.
I'm on,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's a different-
I have one that in theory things sound good when they sign up.
Yeah,
And they go, and if they don't meet a best friend day 2,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to go anymore. They rather play with their friends online, or they rather whatever. Well, we tease that out.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, so same thing. Like, tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you wish you had because you were excited when we signed up.
yeah. What
So what's
changed?
missing? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you wish was part of it that isn't a reality for you? Can we help that because you are a part of a team, love? Like that is a real thing
Yeah.
Right.
in the
Especially if
work
they're expecting
world
you.
or whatever. Like, yeah, if you're part of a team and you just bail, that does in reality shift obligation to other people, and that's not something I want to take lightly. I don't want you to bail,
Very
but
fair
also if
point.
it's if
Yeah.
it is causing you personal distress, there's a right way to go about it.
Which is why we stuck out with floor hockey.
right. There you go. Right.
But
yeah,
then, like, you know, so, okay, my stepmom always did this thing where you have to be involved in 2 things. You know, I was a hooligan from the streets when I got to her house, and it worked for me. So I
Distraction.
You saw the
employ that
benefit
with
of
my
it.
children.
Yeah.
You know, whatever your passion is, let's embellish on that. She takes cooking classes. She's going to do like a writing class, like whatever you like.
Whatever.
But you have to get out there and get out of the basement
Right.
like a little garbage troll.
Right.
I need you to do things with friends.
Identify something.
Yeah.
Identify
Something.
something.
We'll swap it out.
That brings you joy. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't bring you joy, I don't know that it's all that worth it.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
it'll even flow a little bit, right?
absolutely.
Because sometimes they're
Is
just
it
like, I need a break.
torture?
I need a break.
Or is it like not what you thought it was? If
Right.
it's not what you thought it was, and
Not
we
what
have
you thought it was. You know,
a little while longer that you can make it.
we're not
for the
signing
sake
up for
of-
like CYO volleyball.
No,
No.
not yet.
Unless she wants to like hit on all the girls.
Right.
That's it.
There you
Yeah.
go.
But
Yeah.
no.
I'm like, the reality, you can drop out of college if it's not, you can change your major.
Right.
You can quit your job. There is a lot
There's
of wiggle
repercussions for
room.
all these things.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Some are bad and some are nothing.
Yeah. You weigh the pros and cons.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
that
try
goes-
to do that with my littles of the pros and cons. Thank God when he's 11 are not that big of a deal.
No.
But you're
that's
not going to
important,
not
'cause
call.
they
You're
should
not
be
going to
able
not
to
show.
Yeah,
You're
they
gonna,
should be able to identify their boundaries though, because this helps them. Like, this feels bad. I don't want to do this. It's the bad decision for
Yeah.
me, and that carries into adulthood. I was not taught
Yes.
that.
Funny thing you said that. We're going to talk about
Here we
this
go.
today. This is a great transition into this. So we're going to talk about two different parenting styles and how it kind of affects your kids and what it kind of leads to. We have parenting for relationship and behavioral parenting. These are two very different ways to parent. I've been parented both ways, and most people probably are from one.
Two very valid ways of
Yes,
parenting.
and they
Pros
are.
and cons.
But usually it kind of splits up between your parents. Usually one of them's kind of being hard on you and one of them's kind of being a little more nurturing. Or sometimes you get both. I mean, it goes all over the... But
Or
normally...
you're raised by wolves.
Yes, and sometimes you're a little feral. Okay, so parenting for relationship does not use reward and punishment. Most people would be like, well, how in the fuck do you parent without reward or punishment? Because most of us were taught, you do this or you get punished. You
Yes.
do this and you get this.
Right.
So when you're parenting for a relationship, what would that consist of? If you're saying, what would be an example of not
So-
using reward or punishment?
We're taking that off the table. And then what? So here's where I get a lot of parents get caught up is they're like, my parents did this and I will never. But they don't replace it.
Oh,
So
so it's like, I hate breaks, doing break jobs. So who's going to do it?
Right.
Or how are you going to have breaks?
Right, yeah. Well, and it goes back to like, think of anything that's like clinical or therapeutic, right? Like, I'm not going to cuss you out anymore. If I don't have some sort of replacement communication
Alternative.
skill, I'm going to cuss you out. Like, and I can bite my tongue and I can shove it down, but the reality is that's what's going to come out.
Yeah.
So this works very similarly. If I'm not going to give you an allowance for doing chores, and I'm also not going to take your PlayStation if you don't do them, then what?
So what would be an example for a parent to do that for parenting for relationship on that side of that?
So those are the parents that try, and developmental age has a lot to do with this one.
Okay.
Littles work very much on rewards and consequences. If you don't do this, this is what I want. Because there has to be some sort of like moral foundation, right? Like these things are bad or they're wrong. But as they continue to develop and grow, we start to try to implement like natural logical consequences. If you don't clean your room will get dirty and it will smell. If you don't do your laundry, I'm not going to do your laundry because that wasn't
Right.
the deal. So Monday morning, if you don't have laundry, then
You have dirty clothes.
you're going to have dirty clothes. You can either wear dirty clothes, you can get up early and do your laundry, you can have a conversation with me that takes accountability to say, Mom, I'm really sorry I didn't do my laundry this weekend. I lost track of time. But like,
Reasonable.
that is parenting for a relationship, having open communication to promote independence and growth versus this was my expectation and you didn't meet it. So here's your consequence that's completely unrelated.
Okay, so behavioral parenting on the other side, it relies on reward and punishment. So obviously the complete opposite, not the complete opposite, but very the other side of that, which most people are very familiar with.
Sure.
That it's reward and punishment. If you clean your room, you get to go with your friends.
Yeah.
If you don't get clean your room, you're grounded. Okay, so but if you, and that works. We've seen it work.
Sure.
I understand that. And I also understand, like, I had somebody go, why do you always help your kids with their chores? How are they ever going to know how to do things on their own? And I always help them because I want them to know there's nothing beneath me and we do it as a team. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm not expecting you to do things that I don't do.
Yep.
And it's worked well for my kids. I can't speak for other kids because I've seen other kids.
I do.
I don't
both.
know how you get through to some of them. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I've never dealt with that.
Some kids, they relate well to peer shame. So, like, my oldest used to be that way. I'd walk her through everything and do it all for her. And it took having friends coming over being like, oh, for her to be like,
Oh, yeah.
oh.
Can so and so come
Yeah.
over? And I'm like, where are they going to hang out? In the living room? Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I want to relax. You can
Right.
take them to your room, and they will
Yeah.
say, "My room's a mess.
Clean your room.
You should probably clean your room."
Well, that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
because that's your space. That is your space,
Yeah.
and I empower her to say
Yeah.
like that is your space.
My daughter will clean her
Well, and
room.
then
and
also
she's got somebody
understanding
coming
some
over
children
and
have
does it.
no idea how to tackle a task like that. So,
Yeah.
like, you have to meet every kid where they're at, and every kid is different.
Yeah. Well,
Constantly.
yeah. Having 5 at home, I do a blend. I try really hard to set expectations and discuss them, whatever their cognitive level is, as to
Right.
like this is why I want it to go this way, and I will help them. I'll do the same thing. Scrap my evening plans, and
Well,
we are
explain to
in
them
your
why we're
bedroom,
doing it.
and yeah, and say
Yeah.
like, sweetie, do you want to keep this 1,000th piece of paper from preschool? And
I
if we keep, I do not. Guess what? I've gotten mine from my mom. I don't want any of it. So like that's why I'm like, this doesn't matter. But anyway, like
I have
hang it up
5
on your
things from
wall.
when I was a kid.
Opposite, right? So hang it up on your wall,
Yeah.
or put it. Do you
Let it
want a
go.
folder? Do we want to admire it and then discard it in the recycling bin? Like, so I have all those conversations. Weeks later, there are absolutely times where I'm like, dude, you got to clean your room. And they're like, I don't know how. I need your help. No, you don't. You don't, because I have spent hours. But then I, as a mother, have to take a step back to say, like, he knows how, but is his emotional scale not? It's not a thing today. So I could either give a consequence, and there are times that I do,
Yeah.
and there are times that I'm like, you know what, sweetie, like that is an expectation for this weekend, but it doesn't have to be tonight.
Yeah. It's reasonable.
We
Yeah.
set timers.
Yeah,
Give me your best 30 minutes.
right.
Let's
Yeah.
see what you can do.
That's
Make
good.
a dent. Make
Yeah.
a dent. My biggest pet peeve is when I come in and it's clean, and then I open the closet.
You're
I'm
just
like,
like,
you're a dick. You're a dick for
papers
that.
shoved in the
You
sock
took all
drawer.
of the things off of the floor and put them away.
Yeah. Mike's really
closet,
good at
yeah.
throwing things in closets. So the next thing,
hysteria.
yeah, right. Communication and relationship skills is on parenting for a relationship. Okay. And on the behavioral parenting, it's behavioral management skills. So what would be considered behavioral management skills? That sounds a little different than communication and relationship. I mean, when you say communication.
Training is what that is. I don't want you to do this. It kind of goes back to the first one,
Okay.
right? Of like, this is what I expect. In trying, a lot of parents will take bits and pieces of clinical ideas and say, like, use an I statement or use natural logical concept, but it's still very pros and cons.
Okay.
I am happy when you do this, and when you don't do this, I'm sad.
So this is where it gets more interesting. The other stuff is kind of just skimming the surface. I mean, this is
Sure.
normal shit. Parenting for a relationship, emphasis on listening to and understanding a child. That's on having a relationship with your kid. On the other side is emphasis on getting a child to conform.
Oh, yeah.
So I've definitely had both of these in my life. You know what I mean? I find listening to your kid and the tattooing for 30 some years, I've watched kids grow up in my shop, and I'm tattooing them now. I've watched him literally grow up from being 8 years old to an adult, having children. The kids I know that were listened to by their parents and given a choice by their parents, reasonable, but they talk to their kid like a human. Those kids can look me in the eye and speak. Those kids are successful. I'm not saying they don't have any problems, but they seem to know their worth. They don't let people walk on them. I think people, when they try to make a kid conform, and people are trying to fuck you, and people are trying to do this to you, and you need to do this and that and that, it almost fucks your kid because they're always on the defense. You know what I mean? That they're always, instead of just going, look, you can't take shit from me. Like, if your kid knows their worth, and your kid knows that, like, they're strong as fuck, you know what I mean? Or they know how to deal with a problem. They know how to look you in the eye and go, or listen to somebody, or express themselves. I feel like people who can express themselves kind of don't get as beat up on things. Because if you're taught to conform, that means almost anybody can make you conform.
Well, you should teach your kids how to cope. Like, figure out your workaround in that situation.
Right.
So that you are not conforming, but you are...
You got to deal with some shit. Like, I tell my kids, like,
I gotta
look,
show
not
up to work
everybody's
every
going to
day.
treat you
I
the
hate
way I
those
do.
people.
Yeah. Well, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to, like, eat some shit sometimes. Or I always say just how to Jedi through it. Because my favorite thing in life is figuring how to, like you said, cope. Is go, okay, I'm in a shitty situation. Am I going to be miserable all day and then take this shit home? Or am I going to make the funniest day out of this and make it so fucking ridiculous? And I can do it to a certain point, and everybody has a breaking point. But mine's pretty good. But there's times where I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this shit today. You know?
Well, I think this one, so talking about intergenerational patterns, I would say that this one specifically is the most common that I see. Is I, as an individual, you know, have trauma. I was abused by people who weren't supposed to abuse me. I was touched by people who weren't supposed to touch you.
Are there people who are supposed to abuse you? What does that
I'm
mean?
just saying, like, there is an expectation as a child and something that's given to you.
It hurts a little more when somebody you trust and love
You should
fucking
be in a
abuses
safe space.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a child, you ideally, I feel like, are taught that, like, these are all safe people.
Yeah.
But when there is a parent that is scorned and damaged, they do often kind of twist a little. No one is safe. It's me, and that is it. If anybody does anything, you need to tell me. You scream blood. But, like, as a parent, that feels so real.
Yeah.
That, like, nobody is trustworthy. Everybody can hurt you, and you have to look out for yourself no matter what, and I got your back no matter what.
Yeah.
But that does create panic or fear, but to that parent, like, that's not misplaced. That's very real for
Right.
them. And I have worked with parents through that, and they'll tell me, like, Kelly, I hear you, but that is my real story, my very real story. So
Yeah.
I want to listen to them, and I want to guide them without making them fearful of the world, but they don't know how.
Well, they also aren't coming with that same information.
No.
Your children did not experience that. So you're just instilling fear in them without them even knowing what they're afraid of.
Right.
Or just making them be on edge constantly. So listening and understanding your child, getting your child to conform, obviously these are very simple things.
Sure.
I mean, it's not that crazy to figure out. So here's the next one. Do things with child, do things to child. What does that mean? Obviously, do things with your child is like helping your kid or going and doing things with your kid and enjoying going to Wendy's with your kid on Tuesday.
Sure.
Going
Fuck
to,
choir.
yeah, fuck choir.
Fuck choir.
Does things to child. What does that mean?
So I think of, I feel like there's such a big spectrum here, right? Super healthy parents and super unhealthy parents.
Of course.
My brain clinically kind of falls in the middle of, I have a 7-year-old. She'll be 8 next week.
Yeah.
She wants to cook. Oh, she wants to cook in such a big way. As I've mentioned, there are 7 of us in our house. Do you know how much of a more commitment it is for me to cook with her?
Because you're trying to feed an army.
I just want to cook. I just want to cook, and I just want you to go outside and play, and I just want to feed you. I want to do it to you. I want to feed you, but she really, really wants to. So I usually have to pause and, like, evaluate. do I have time? If I have time, sounds
Right.
great. If I don't, and I have to feed everybody in 45 minutes, and then people need to start going to bed and start showering, but I just explain that to her.
Can you give her a dedicated day? Like you get Saturday morning?
Yeah, we have done that. Or I have said, like, not tonight, sweetie, but why don't you decide what you want to make on Saturday? Mm-hmm. Think about it.
have
We
one
can
more
go to
time.
we can go to the grocery store, but not tonight, babe.
Yeah.
Like, I have my kids probably 60% of the time.
Yeah.
So it's often the day I get her. She's like, let's go. And I'm like, I don't even know what we have in the refrigerator. I'm like,
I
That's
kind of forgot I
salami.
had kids for 3 days.
Like, I was thinking mac and cheese, baby. Like,
Right.
and
I already ordered pizza.
right. So I guess in the middle ground, that's kind of where I think is doing things that seem helpful, simple tasks. I want to do your laundry. I don't want to do your laundry.
Right.
I'm gonna do your laundry. I'm gonna tell you to shower. I'm gonna give you the hairbrush to brush your hair. But there's a different way to do that, to promote a different level of independence, I think.
So obviously unconditional is on parenting for a relationship, and behavioral parenting is conditional to be earned. And man, this is when it starts getting real, because if you notice adults, this isn't just with children, you know, when people say to me, you know, respect is earned, I'm like, I don't understand that, because that doesn't work with me. Respect can be taken.
Yeah.
I think you should reasonably respect people until they give you a reason not to respect them, but other people feel, but I know that's a sense of power. It has to be like they're holding the keys and you have to earn these keys.
Those people are very insecure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I understand that, you know, because I
Those
talk
are
to
hurt
people.
people, I
Yes.
feel like.
So, but if you're doing that to your kid, like, what do you mean to be earned? Like, I understand, like,
It says respect or love.
it says condition, it says unconditional, and it says conditional to be earned. It doesn't really tell you.
Okay. I wasn't
So,
sure what like the word.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be earned, does that mean like you have to earn my trust? You have to earn my respect? You have to earn, like, people that do that? Does that ever end fucking well?
No, I have parents, again, because that's what intergenerational stuff, where people get so caught up and lost in this, because I'll have parents come to me and say, you know, my daughter is having a really hard time at school. She's so bad. Like, and we don't see it at home, but you try to get her to conform and fit her in a box in public school, and she loses her shit. So when they come home, they're like, there has to be a consequence. Like, how do I not give a consequence when she's cussing out and biting staff?
But why is she doing that?
What?
What is upsetting her
And they're
during the day?
trying, yeah. And so usually, like I said, people that fall in the middle of that spectrum, they're trying to get an IEP or a 504, and they're like,
Or
but
maybe they're gifted.
maybe they're bored, maybe they're dysregulated, maybe somebody triggers them, but they
Sleep,
do
diet.
struggle
I mean, it's a
with
lot of-
all
They're
of
waiting
these
all
things,
day,
all of
which
these
is
children. I mean,
so
that's
boring.
that's what we're talking about. Kids who don't even have necessarily the insight or appreciation for their own mind, let alone
and
to
most adults that have
communicate it.
kids, they don't
They
understand
also
it either.
don't, because they didn't have this type of parenting.
no.
So it can feel, children that I work with that are teenagers now often talk about this. Well, my dad is super proud of me when I do this, but they're not proud of me if I do this. And I'm like, proud is a tricky word.
It sticks with you, though. I've wanted to get the acceptance of someone in my life that, honestly, I look at now and I go, for what?
Right.
What
Well, then-
what is that going to fucking, like, why did I want this so bad to have his acceptance? For what?
Well, what would it mean?
That's
and
what I'm
That's what
saying.
I'm. But like that's similar
Yeah.
to.
But as a
I want to be a
child-
priority. What does that look like? Acceptance looks like what? Words?
Yeah.
Probably not.
The only time I
You
need
are
to be a
grown
priority
as hell.
is
So like
when-
words probably wouldn't mean all that much. But so for kids, when I pick up my son struggles. When I pick him up, I always, and my husband is so much better at it, like gives him a high five no matter what before he even asks how his day was.
Right.
I struggle.
You're like, no,
I
no,
do.
no.
I'm like, listen.
Get on the scale. How
You
many
look-
M&Ms
right.
did you eat today?
I know, and I'm working. I'm a therapist, and I'm still working because
Yeah.
he's my stepson. So blended family stuff is hard. My kids, I raised since birth, and so there's a different
Expectation.
relationship and a different expectation, and they know right from wrong. And not to say that he doesn't, but it's
I
different.
have a question.
Go ahead.
Ms. Kelly,
Yes.
how do you not be a mom in the most mom sense to stepchildren. You know, like
Say
you
that a
parent
different way.
your kids.
Yeah.
Like I was never able to figure out how to mother a child that already had a mother.
You want to know the truth? Their moms aren't involved. We have full custody.
God bless you. Okay.
Is that, and I've noticed that too, that like the people I know that it's, unless you have a very healthy parents on both sides, it's very hard because you're dealing with people kind of putting things in each other's minds and the
Yeah.
kids' minds constantly.
Right.
Or you don't have to listen to her. You don't have to listen to him. He's not
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah.
She's not your mom.
Yeah.
See,
when-
I'm the one
know.
that's like, oh, you came home. I heard you were awful to your mother. Let's have a discussion about that.
Right. Well, and that's so my stepchildren's mothers are not involved, so I am full-time momming,
Okay.
filling in gaps
That's hard.
that they can't
hard,
fill
though,
right now.
still.
Sure, it's awful sometimes, but it's easy in some.
Yeah.
It's easier in different ways.
Because they just need love.
They do. That's all they want. They just want me to love them. That's all they need. My ex-husband is still very present. And my ex-husband and my current husband get along fantastic. They will text each other. Hey, I'm on my way. Can you have the kids ready? Kelly's working late. Like, but we've talked about co-parenting is hard.
Dude,
and my
normal
husband, my
parenting,
ex-husband, I
co-parenting in your
know.
own with your own children is
My
hard.
ex-husband and I got along swimmingly forever. He's just not my person. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with him.
No.
He's a fantastic dad. He has gaps just like I have gaps.
Yeah.
And my husband now struggles that way. How do I father children who have a father? I said, you just fill in the gaps. That's all they need. If you don't do the things, they're going to wake up at 30 and be like, well, he didn't do it, but shit, he didn't do it either.
Right.
So you find a way. You find a way to fill the gaps without stepping on toes.
Or just be kind.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard because, like, usually if you're raising someone else's kids, they're not little. Every once in a while, you'll get a little. And that's easy because you're just like, what's up? They don't care.
We got to get in that sweet spot.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you're getting teens, preteens,
Yeah.
whew, they're hard enough to raise on your own,
Yeah.
you know?
3-year-old and a 15-year-old,
Yeah,
14-year-old.
that's a gap. Yeah, that's a
So
huge
the
gap.
little one,
Easy.
stop it.
Yeah.
Easy.
The older one, love them to death.
Yeah,
But it's hard. It hits different.
because they're struggling themselves.
Yeah, right.
Okay, enhances relationship over life, targets behavior in present time.
Say that one again.
So, this one
Okay.
enhances relationship over life.
So
Or
parenting
relationship
for a
over life, sorry.
relationship.
Yeah.
Enhances relationship over life.
So that's on parenting for relationships. I mean, I think enhancing your relationship over life is a long-term process. Like me and my daughters, 2 of them are grown adults, and the other one's almost grown. We have nurtured and grown to the point of trust. We've always had a decent amount of trust, but like as adults, they still trust me. As adults, they don't avoid me. We respect each other and all that. So that works for me.
It's such a gradual process. So I've done more and more research as to how to shift, because there's so much research, and there's books that you can buy talking about like child development, right? Like they're little and they need this, and then they're toddlers and they need this, and then preschool age and adult age, like all the things. But they don't do super well from the books I have read and the schooling that I've had to say, like, this is probably how you should start to shift as a parent and how you should react to this age and this age.
You can't do the same thing from
It's
0
so
to 5,
hard.
5 to 10,
Oh my gosh!
10
And
to
the
15.
more kids you have,
To
no,
me, it'd be
no
easier
two
if someone
kids
would
are
tell me,
the
like,
same.
after 18 what to do. Like, I'm meeting a new kid every year,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, well,
with
yeah.
different milestones. I have
my
no
God.
idea what I'm doing. I'm not sure if I'm
Exponential
doing
growth,
it
right, yeah.
Yeah.
You just listen. And there's a whole new movement for like raising adult children that I think is fascinating.
Because that's when they need you the most.
They
Well,
never
I mean,
stop,
other when they're
they
young
never
babies.
stop
on
needing
that.
you.
We don't
No,
focus
but I'm
on
They
saying-
need you
that.
because they start to make those big life decisions that are wrong
Yeah.
or right, but wrong. And then they need that acceptance of like, don't feel guilty and hold this your whole life that you did it wrong.
Yeah. Everybody screws up. How? I mean, in our society is so screwed up in that way of like at 17, you're supposed to know what you want to do forever. I'm not doing what I did when I was 17.
I'm not
It's-
making out with boys in the back of my car.
Like, you're right.
Is that true?
I'm
Me
not.
either. But
Never have I ever. But am I in the same career field? Sure. But I've gone back to school a couple of different times because I continue to learn and grow. I'm in my 30s now and I'm not done. That's
No.
part of the reason why I got divorced.
Yeah.
I'm not the same person.
I
That's
just went
not
back
his
to school
fault.
last year. I was
Right.
like, I actually think I'm pretty smart. I can figure
Right.
this out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give this whirl.
Well, you don't know what's out there. You have no idea.
so when this says targets behavior in present time, that means like, hey, you need to handle this because if you can't handle this now, what makes you think you're going to be able to handle something later? Like I hear that a lot from people, and I'm like,
Like, what does that mean?
Right.
Well, they do age comparisons. That's baby stuff. Are you a baby? That's not what we do. You need to go
What?
to the.
You don't cry when we hurt our knee.
Yeah, right. I mean, but really, we don't lie. We don't call names. We don't bully other people.
Okay.
We don't have accidents when we sleep.
Oh,
That's baby
so
stuff.
unkind.
But that's what I think of when I think of like targeting behaviors in present time. It's like age appropriate,
Okay.
current
Gender
things,
appropriate.
gender appropriate. Right.
Right. Where you're from.
Right.
You
Act
better-
like a big kid.
Yeah.
I hear that
And I
all
understand
the
that. We've
time.
all heard that.
I've
Oh,
said
see, I
it.
do the
I've
opposite.
said it.
Can you just be
Yeah,
10
right.
for a second?
Yeah.
Just be 10. Don't be 40.
My 15-year-old, I'm like, dude, you're almost 16. Like the time has come, and as soon as it leaves my mouth, I hope that it doesn't hit him in the way that it could.
Yeah, but it's very easily could.
My general parenting style is for relationships, so I feel like if your foundation is there, then you can apologize or you can go back and say like, this is what I said. This is what I meant, but like taking ownership of what comes out of your mouth because we're
Yeah.
only human.
I eat crow all the time.
all the time.
I did not handle that well. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Within reason, yeah. You
Yeah.
should be able to say that. I've definitely done that with my daughters. I've done it with my friends.
Yeah.
Solve problems within the relationship, win-win or no lose. Okay? That works most of the times unless your kid's being a complete
Well, sure.
fucking
I mean,
psychopath. You
there
know
are
what I mean?
exceptions.
Yeah, of course.
Always.
Aim for compliance from child. Win or lose. That's it. You're either winning or you're losing. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
If your boss did all this shit on this side, you would not like working for them.
Yeah, but you get paid.
Because
It doesn't
a lot
matter.
of bosses do take that approach.
Yeah.
That, like these are the policies. If you miss 3 days of work, you're done.
So I tell people all the time, being a parent, you're not a parent. You are a manager. Imagine if a manager treated you or talked to you a certain way at work. How would you feel if they did that? I wouldn't want a manager to baby me, but I also wouldn't want a manager to motherfuck me. You know what I mean?
I use that analogy in relationships and marriages all the time.
So I feel that way. And with my kids, like I just want to show them, and you're not going to get it perfect. I'm not going to get it perfect. And they're not going to get it perfect. They're children. And they're
Right.
people. I mean, it's
Right.
not just their children, but they don't have the life experience that even people we know that are grown-ass adults.
Yeah.
They still make missteps, and so do we.
This is something that I use. So children with like ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, sometimes they do just want to win. They just do. It's in their DNA. That's what we always say. It's in their DNA. That is the only time that I will encourage parents to highlight the fact that like this behavior does not mean you're winning. This is not me losing. So if you throw a fit and you say, I'm not taking my lunch to school,
Then you're hungry.
baby, that's not a win.
Yeah.
That affects you. That really doesn't affect me. I will be sad all day because
Yeah,
I
I'll
know
be
you're going to
worried.
be hungry.
Yeah.
So that's the only, I guess, exception that comes to my head of highlighting a win and a loss of you're trying to stick it to me, but like I want to be on your team. I want it to be win-win.
And there's
or
win-lose
no
things. Like if you go, hey, I told you that if you take your iPad on your grandma's boat, you could drop it in the water. Or you
Yep.
could do something. You can't do certain things. That's a lose thing. And like I can't keep buying you a
Or you're gonna have
$1,200 iPad.
Heat stroke if you put that hoodie on and it's 90 degrees
Yeah.
on field day.
Right.
I heard a very interesting thing. My friend says she was at the beach and this kind of foreign couple were walking with their children, and he had all this, the cooler and all this, and his son had a ton of toys. And he was crying and kept stopping, like, I can't carry any. He goes, does your possessions burden you? Right? He goes, then what is important for you to take? I'm carrying these things, son. If your possessions burden you, then you don't need them. And I thought that was a very, like, she told me, she goes, that stuck with me. do your possessions burden you?
That has to be somewhere on there.
Right. But that's
My kids would have been like,
But that's natural and logical, right?
I
Like,
thought that
if
was a
you-
beautiful way to say it to
Yeah.
them. You know, so stuff like this. So we're about midway through that on this list. I wanted to talk about this today because I'm noticing that how much your parents affect you carry on into your current relationship and your children, obviously, but in your current relationship. Most people struggle more with their relationship than they do with parenting, technically. I would think. I don't know if that's true, but I'm saying it hits different.
One lights the fire for the other
Yes.
often.
So I'm curious of all these things, like someone who's raised this way versus raised that way, how much do they take that? Like when you're doing couples counseling, like there's things that my dad and my stepdad did that I found myself doing so hard in my 20s, early 30s. And I've tried to change that shit because, I mean, that's just how you do things,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm noticing that when people they take so much of that into, you know, your next life, you know, because I feel like you have separate lives.
The
you know
next
what I mean?
chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk about that all the
So
time.
if your parents are teaching you a certain way to love, or a certain way to not love, or a certain way to deal with problems, and then you take it into your next relationship, you said before, like, who's the healthiest person in your family? Is it your cousin, your niece, your
Who do you got?
your aunt and uncle, your grandma and grandpa, your
Right.
parents? I mean,
Stick a pin in that one. Like, what does
Yeah.
that
Right.
look like?
but a lot of people don't have that.
That's true.
They have very volatile, very abusive, very shitty.
I work with people like that all the time. Where I ask that question and they're like, I don't know.
like nothing's
My-
coming to their mind. I could name
Not-
20 couples in my family that
No.
are like
I was
dope. You know, they're nice.
totally unprepared to parent. I had
You
no
were?
idea what I was doing. No, because I wasn't raised by anybody that was worth a damn.
So
So,
that's heavy.
like a big village.
So how'd you do it? Trial and
I
error?
drew on when I was having my oldest. I knew I wanted to have her.
Yeah.
Like I knew instantly I meant to do this, and I just drew on families I had spent time with
Okay.
throughout growing up and took pieces that looked like it worked.
Like the good parts.
Or like I looked at
Like,
Like
Yeah.
making a salad
TV.
and you're walking through and going, that
like
lettuce
cherry
looks
picked.
good.
I was like, yeah.
that's what most people do.
Yeah, or I looked at people that had really thriving, happy adults that they raised and still had healthy relationships with. And was like, how did you handle this?
You ask questions.
So-
Yeah, all
that-
the questions because I knew nothing.
Yeah. See, with that, you have a curious nature and you had a goal, right? That I'm going to do this different and not there again, as I've already said, there's this shift between I'm not going to do it this way and I'm going to choose to do it this way instead. So often I hear people when I do ask, like, you know, look at your web, right? Who do you got? And they look at their natural support system and they're like, they're all shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
So you do that elimination process.
Yeah,
like
it's
I know
deductive
not to
logic,
do
not
all
this
this.
and not this. Usually, hopefully, there is a friend that because chances are, if you had abusive parents, and this is a generalization, but if you had abusive parents or neglectful parents or passive parents, you were spending your time doing something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So often, those parents talk about friends that they're like, never have I ever. Their mom was home every night. They cooked every day.
Like
I
the
had no
moms that,
idea.
like, go to drop you off at your house and they're like, nope, we'll take you back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or so many people talk about like TV, TGIF, Full
Really?
House. No shit.
That's how they learned how to be a parent?
Full House.
Full
Boy
House was a
Meets
trap.
World.
There are not dads like that out there.
But Boy Meets World, Family Matters, all of that, where
Cosby
they were
Show.
like, at the time, way
Too soon?
If you think of sitcoms, I'm just gonna see how I just.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you think of sitcoms from the 90s, let's say, how many opportunities did you witness if you watched cable, a parental figure of some sort sit down with a child and like have a deep conversation, right? The music changed.
Yeah.
Seventh Heaven.
Everybody, Seventh Heaven, stop it. They would zoom in.
That keeps coming up on our show. I don't know
Slowly,
what the
they would go
fuck.
back. But like that
Love that show.
that is where a lot of, I would say, millennials specifically kind of got their nuggets that they're like, that worked. That made me feel good just watching it.
Yeah.
And I want to try that.
So
I'll
the
see if
kids
it
that are
works.
watching Shameless now,
Are not.
I cannot watch
so-
Shameless.
Is it hit too hard?
I watch,
Oh my
like-
God. I started watching. My mom is Frank Gallagher.
listen,
1,000%.
I know the girls that when they go, I can't watch that show. It makes
You're
them
like,
so, look. I can see your face. It's that reaction. Yeah,
Like,
It's a red
poor
flag.
choices.
Right.
A show centered around poor choices. No, thank you.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard because that's just bad behavior after bad behavior. So you learn from what not to do, and you also picked up little nuggets. I've always asked a lot of questions. When I find an old couple that's been together a while, I'm like, how did you stay together 35 years? Like, no bullshit.
What is it? Right.
Earplugs.
You know? Well, they always say you got to eat some shit.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
generic
There's
answer,
no-
too.
there's
You know
no
what I mean?
perfect.
But no.
It's a choice. Like there are so many times where it is a choice
I'd
to
rather
stick
know
it
how
out.
the
or-
older couples that are on their like second or third serious relationship are doing it. How are you
Ooh.
stomaching this?
That's
what
another
have you
How
one.
are you
learned?
working through this? What did you find was
Knowing all the
acceptable and
bullshit.
worth inviting someone back into your life?
That's already made.
Yeah.
You already have a house.
And
On
do
a
you know
very
how hard
intimate
that
level.
is?
Like,
Right.
how did you choose to financially bind yourself to one more adult?
Man, that's a real question. Because we're
That's
all
so
in that
rare.
position that we've all struggled with that. It is a different thing when you've been in a serious relationship before and then you're entering into another, like me currently.
Right.
You know what I mean? I have to look at things differently. And I've noticed my friends, because most of my friends are 10 years older than me. And they've been single just long enough to not really fucking care.
Yeah.
And they have just enough cool shit that they don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
Because when you grow up with
100%.
somebody, you gain your shit together. Those couples actually got a pretty good shot. If you stay together from 18 on, you
Yeah.
built shit together. You grew up together. I had a
Cannot
lady.
relate.
I had a lady. I know.
Yeah.
I can.
I made it 14 years.
Yeah.
For you, that's a long time to like
That's-
somebody.
Yeah, that's super
I
good.
feel like I get like a third place ribbon.
you really
So her
do.
first husband,
Thank you.
they grew up together and they loved each other
Yeah.
and like all this stuff. But she felt like she wasn't her own person. She felt like everything had to do with him. And her current relationship, he's so fucking individual, which is what she wanted. She doesn't feel that bond that she had with her first husband. I go, isn't it funny that that's what you thought you wanted, then you got it. You're like,
Here we
oh
are.
fuck,
Right.
fuck. 'Cause
No, I think it's interesting though. None of the couples I'm working with are on their second relationship.
they're on the first.
None of them.
Really?
That's why
I'm
they're in
working with-
counseling.
Are they 10?
No.
15.
No. I
26.
So I have 5 couples. They are all on their first relationship, whether they're married or just
Good
committed.
for them, though, to come.
All of them. Well, now
therapy.
I'm like, I'm going to mark it and be like, any second timers, third timers, I want to talk to you guys.
Fourth times.
Do you think
we are your
third and
target
fourth?
audience?
That's what I want to know. But no,
Yeah.
I think your question is super interesting because I have personal friends that are in that situation where they're like, F off all the way. I don't want, I am so
yeah.
independent and sound and it
so
would
happy
take.
with what I have, and the only thing I'm missing is
satisfied.
like
this
physical
part,
touch.
this little sliver
Yeah.
where you go home and you sleep in your own bed because like my
because
bed
it's
is
great.
right,
By the way,
right.
I love my bed.
right.
I'm in a love affair with it.
So, but they struggle to even wrap their head around a person, what a whole person would look like that adds to my journey and doesn't take.
That
looks
isn't
like,
like,
what,
why don't you prioritize me?
right?
Yeah. What I always say is,
So I know individuals who are in that boat, but I haven't worked with anybody.
no, they're not going to
in my
counseling.
practice. I
They
know.
move the fuck out and fucking end it. Block them. Done.
I do.
Next.
I'm gonna do a case study.
That's a
I
hard
want to
one.
know.
Can I
Let
write it
me-
with you?
Because
Yes,
like
please.
for me,
Patient
Working on my
00001.
IRB paperwork now.
right. I think when you get into that, it's like when I was talking to her today, and it's you want what you don't have. But people that were in those long-term relationships from the get-go, they have that bond. They've seen each other's shit.
Mm-hmm.
They've dealt with it. They grew up together. They really they dealt with it. And not everybody can get through it.
No.
That's a trauma bond.
But
I
it-
mean, I'm still doing that with people that I'm not in a relationship with. I'm
Right.
co-parenting with people, and we are growing together, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And all I think is, thank God we are not together.
You're not my person.
Yes.
Because I can say what I need to say in whatever way I need to say it.
Right.
And then
Sometimes.
I can end the phone call
maybe.
It's hard. I'm
is hard.
fortunate, you know what I mean, in my
Yeah, I'm
situation
very
like that.
fortunate.
I prefer a relationship. I prefer a relationship over being completely alone. I don't like being alone.
I don't do well.
Yeah.
You're a long-term monogamous person.
I am.
Yeah.
I enjoy it way more. I've learned, especially in the last little bit, that like what I really appreciate in a person, because you see that in someone and you really go, and to find somebody that can replace that or fill that void for me is becoming very slim.
Increasingly difficult.
Because I see things, like I can see things now that I'm just like, no fucking way.
Well, and
No
I feel like the
fucking
older
way.
we get, you're almost like convincing someone, like, this is who I am. Here's all my
No matter
disclaimers.
what.
Literally, I'm cool.
So
You will
I've
not
tried both
change
of those. I've tried that where you like, hey, this, and I've watched couples go, well, I told her this is what blah 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 blah, and it said all this shit. And I'm like, well, you just gave them a playbook, and you just gave them a reason why you're allowed to be an asshole. Like when I hear somebody go,
I'm not
I
an
told
asshole,
him I
though.
was difficult. I told him I was a fucking. I go, you just said, hey, I'm gonna be a shithead, and you got to accept it because
So
you're
that's
signing
not
off
what I
on
mean.
it. No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
like,
not you.
okay.
I'm saying. I've noticed people do it two different ways, and
Yeah.
sometimes if you tell somebody a bunch of stuff in the beginning, they weaponize it and bring it back a year
1000%.
later.
They,
Oh, yeah.
the things that drew them to you, they will then throw in your face later.
Right.
Yes, and I can't fuck with that at all. I'm not going to fuck with that
Nothing you can do about it. It's all on
Nothing.
them. If they've done the work on themselves, and that's the thing, is like you can't
because
scream
I'm
someone,
obviously
like,
not a priority to
Do
them.
you pay your?
Well, and I get
I can't even say that with a fucking straight face.
you're
Put
allowed
me
to
first.
advocate for your needs. We've talked about that too.
Within
But
fucking reason.
if you are going to be an individual and you're going to have, I know we plan to talk about boundaries in
Mm-hmm.
the future. So if you choose to have firm, rigid boundaries, that's on you. You're allowed.
Boundaries are
You're
love.
entitled.
Boundaries
you're
are
entitled.
This
right,
is what you are allowed of me.
Right. This is
Yeah.
all I'm going to give.
This
Ish.
is what I can.
I
Today.
don't know. Right. And I don't know that person, depending on where they're at, should be in a relationship then. And that's
Yeah.
where I start to struggle is
Yeah.
if you are in a place of distress in whatever capacity that looks like for each individual, it's always different. And you need to have rigid boundaries. Okay. I'm not mad at that. That is okay by me. I hope you come out on the other side because rigid is hard.
Rigid is death.
Right.
Sorry.
Temporarily,
That's what it
sometimes
is.
rigid is okay.
I'm rigid. I'm rigid. When it comes to my kids, I'm rigid.
Certain
My
things.
my kids need me 100%. I am all that
You're
they
rigid
have.
if it's dumb.
I am rigid if it's fucking dumb.
That's what I'm saying. You're not rigid. If I
but
came to
dumb
you
is
and
subjective.
said, yes, but if I said, hey, I know you've been doing this with them for this long, but I've been noticing that every time you do that, 2 days later this happens, and you go, holy shit, I didn't notice that. You wouldn't come at me. You wouldn't be like, don't tell me how to raise my fucking kids. You'd be like, oh, I didn't know. Because
I'd be
I
like,
came
oh,
to you.
and then I would.
We talked about it before. If I come to you with the right key, I'm in.
Yeah.
But if I come to you like, what the fuck are you doing? That's fucking dumb, and you're gonna fuck her up. You'd be like this and be like,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about unnegotiables.
It also
before.
depends.
yeah, but that's
It
that's-
also, to me, it
that's
also
rigid.
depends on what credentials you show up with.
Sure.
of course.
Are you educated? Are you going to teach me something? I might be open-minded to
Right.
it.
Show me why you
Right. But if you're ignorant as hell,
think I
don't know
should.
if-
Did Joe
probably
Rogan
should.
tell you that? Because I'm not interested.
Listen, if you want to go out and work out good or kill an elk, that's the guy. Okay, or be nice to people because he's reasonably nice. But I could say this. It's how you approach people. You can approach somebody like a Jedi, or you can approach them like Attila the Hun, and I can guarantee both have their results.
Well, and I'll be honest. For me, that's a fine line where I'm like, are you being manipulative?
Well,
Because
that's damage from
my
previous
shit.
owners.
That's my parental shit.
That is damage from previous owners. So, but see, that's where we get back to. If you feel like everybody's trying to get the fuck over on you, that's something you need to work on before you enter
Right.
into another union, because you're bringing that shit with you, and it's not fair to it, because you might have passed up on a good dude that was like, I just care about you and your kids. They're dope. And you're like, no, you're trying to get in and fucking have.
That doesn't. Yeah.
I
I mean,
know.
it's
Yeah, and that's
few and far
dangerous.
between.
And I've been, well, you're a very strong woman, and you know how to raise your kids, and you know how to communicate. Most men are going to have a hard time with that. Women have a hard time with me because it's hard to bend me.
yeah.
It is, because I try to be thought out, and I'm not perfect.
I am a doctor.
Yeah, right.
I know what I'm doing. Well, listen, my undergrad's in child development. I'm a therapist. I'm like, my kids are fantastic. I have evidence. I have
Yeah.
evidence, personal evidence that says like
Right.
this
And if
works.
not, I'm sure you're overthinking it 24/7.
Guess who lies awake at night thinking about the words that I
Yeah.
said during a conversation to make sure that like, is that what I should have said that?
my
You know,
best
those
moment.
those mom moments where
Yeah.
you're like, I crushed
They're dad
it.
moments.
Yeah.
too.
Where you
They're
drop
dad
them off at
moments.
school
Right, yeah.
and then you cry the whole way to work, like, fuck, I hope our day didn't suck. And then you ask her and she's like, I don't even remember what we talked
Right.
about
What are you
this
talking
morning.
about? Right. I
Yeah.
apologize. And they're like,
Yeah.
what? Or
For
the
what?
moments where I go to bed and I'm so proud, I will text my friend and be like, I just crushed this conversation. Like, just for the record, I'm so impressed with my own
You're up on the
self.
podium. I'd like to thank Jesus.
I would like to think, because some of these conversations are hard, and I am really intentionally trying to parent for relationships.
Yeah.
So I have conversations that my parents never had with me.
Yeah.
But before I have these conversations, I do my own internal reflection to try to figure out what it is that I want to convey. I try to take my own stuff and put it on a shelf. I try to do some research as to like what their experience might be with TikTok and Instagram and all of these
It's heavy
things.
for
so
these
that
kids, man.
Yeah.
It's
It's heavy for adults.
It's
Dude, I know 65-year-old women, they're having full fucking meltdowns because they think Hillary Clinton's fucking murdering babies. Okay, I mean, I'm literally, like, they're literally stressed the fuck out, and I'm sitting there going,
People cling to things.
right, and
Yeah.
so I can imagine if a 65-year-old woman who's almost ready to retire,
Right.
who's
Well,
had a successful, she has grandchildren, she's raised her, she's done it all right, and she's, like, if she can be stressed out about things like that, our kids, our mates, our friends,
guess what? She's stressed because she has access to it.
yeah.
Right.
40 years ago, that wasn't in the newspaper. Let's be honest.
It was.
But,
National
Listen,
Enquirer. But it
It
was,
was.
like Hillary
in the
Clinton
New York
eating
Times,
the babies.
It
where she
was.
had to buy it and then she had to
But when
read
she was
it.
at Kroger's, she saw it.
Right. But now kids have information going
Yeah, it's a
to their
lot.
brain like this.
Right.
And I
And they-
I put my
don't
blinders
have
on.
Tristan
Right.
having access to stuff.
You
My
don't?
I
oldest
do.
did.
Yeah.
My youngest doesn't. And I mean, she has limited access.
How
But
old is she? Do you mind
She
me
is
asking?
10, so she's
Okay,
going into
okay,
6th
yeah,
grade.
my 11-year-old
Does not
doesn't
have a
either, right, yeah.
phone. Olivia had all that stuff very early. I can say their names; they're my children, right? Okay.
Your prerogative. Go ahead.
Big and little.
Yeah.
And it
We
has
call them bigs, littles.
And
Bigs,
it has-
little, and we have one middle.
shaped them. Like the youngest one doesn't give a fuck what people think.
Yeah.
Just no fucks given.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been so much easier to parent her than the oldest one who cared what everyone thought, was obsessed with online, still struggles with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Has let it go a little bit though. But it was rough.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking like, none of that's real.
It
How do I
doesn't
explain
matter.
it to you? It's
They
not
can't.
real.
They can't because it is real. Reality,
it is
like
real.
perception, is reality. So when they have unfiltered 24/7 access to these people that they don't know, my 15-year-old is friends on Snapchat with people they have never met.
There was a scandal at the school.
Oh, there always is.
And so the oldest one learned her lesson.
Was she part of it? She got roped in.
A little bit, had to tell me.
Yeah.
Because the cops
Uh-huh.
called.
Uh-huh.
It was like, I told you, you need to know everyone that follows you.
Yep.
Everyone that reaches out to
Don't
you.
just share
know,
stuff.
People know you.
Yes.
And you just don't realize it.
Yeah. But those are conversations that I want to have. I don't want to. So my son, I think I mentioned on a previous show, my son was making poor choices, as every teenage boy does. I could
you
have
learn
taken
good
I could
ones.
have taken his phone. Absolutely. But I sat him down and had a conversation and was like, this is why I don't think this is super healthy or helpful for you. I want to plead my case, and then I want you to make the best decision for you. And I went to my bedroom, and my husband, stepdad, was like, what in the fuck was that? You didn't take his phone? I'm like, for what? He has to figure out how to navigate the world that he lives in.
Yeah, it's very
It's
take
not
it-
going away.
I take his phone for what, 3 daes and give it back?
That's 3 days. He doesn't have to be doing
he
better.
learned what?
Then you don't know where he's at for those 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
yeah.
I do. I try to sit down and I try to have conversations, and I try not to take away the thing. If you make
I've had to take my kid's phone away a few times,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest, I didn't love doing it.
yeah.
And I explained to her, like, I don't want to take your phone away, but when I'm calling you and you're not answering and then you text me back, I'm getting very irritated
Yeah.
because I'm calling you for a very specific reason.
Well, yeah.
And I tried to explain it to her, and it sucked. And I go, if I don't punish you, how are you going? She goes, I know, Dad. And it just sucked because it was just like,
I
It's a
hate
learning
punishing. I
opportunity.
don't
Oh,
punish.
it's the
I
worst.
hate
it's the
punishing. I suck at it.
worst.
My husband.
I'm all or
the
nothing
time.
too. I'm
Right.
like, your door's off. You own nothing but a hairbrush and Vaseline and these children's sheets.
I know.
and then
it.
and then I feel like crap. Like, so when do I put the door back on?
My husband comes to me and he's like, why is he so hard to punish? And I'm like, because he's fantastic. Because he's a good kid. They're all good
Yeah.
kids, but there has to be
Right.
some sort of boundary because there
Has he
are
tried
exceptions.
waterboarding?
Well, that's the thing. Like, how do you punish a child that is happy hanging out by themselves?
Doing the
Waterboarding.
things. Doing
Just
the
drawing.
things.
Yeah.
Like,
Give me
right.
those pencils
Well, and
and
mine
markers.
goes to like youth group 3 days a week.
Don't
So I'm like,
love
you want me to
Jesus.
take away Jesus?
I mean,
He's
He died for
he's
everyone's
going.
sins
You know
but
what
yours.
Like, you can do this.
Yeah.
And
you're
like,
going to
it-
Church of Satan for 2 days this week.
But it's not. Yeah, it's not
Go rob a bank.
his. It is his outlet. But like, it's a healthy outlet. And I just had a conversation with a father of a teenager that I'm working with, very similarly, very organically, behaviorally
Reasonable.
charged. Right. He wants to behavioral parent. He doesn't have another option. He doesn't know. He wanted to take work away. Because if you can't be responsible enough to tell me where you are and tell me what you're doing, then I'm going to take that away. And I had to sit with him. We were on the phone, but I was like, with all due respect, I feel like morals and foundation is more important than behavioral consequences. So in my house, for example, school, work, and church come first.
Yeah, they all are attended.
Those are all important things. I don't care if their friends are there. They also could probably benefit from
Our friends
social
are at work.
interaction. Yeah. So I'm like, you can take a whole bunch of stuff, but those are things that I speak every day are a priority. And then to renege that and say, well, they're a priority unless you don't answer your phone.
No, see, I think
feels
you take
icky.
your thumbs and you still show up for work.
Right. Right.
It's just how it
Yeah.
is.
So you go to work and then when you come home, you put your phone on the counter.
Yeah.
That's fine. Mm-hmm. But then they can't say, you're isolating me. You don't let me. You talk to hundreds of kids every day.
So kids, this is the other thing I've noticed with kids too. They have all this information about what a good parent is and what a bad parent is. And I've had kids come in my shop and they're like, well, my parents, blah, 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 and what you should do as a parent. I said, well, what you should do as a teenager is you should get straight A's. You should speak 3 languages. You should play 3 sports. You should. I go, if your parents said that to you, they'd be a monster.
Yeah,
They would be an
abusive.
asshole.
They'd
How
be
could you
abusive.
fucking expect that to me? I need to be myself. Well, why don't you allow your parent to be themselves? If your parent's being an abusive parent, that's a different situation.
Sure.
But you want your parent to be a Jedi, and your grandparents are barely Jedi. Okay? And they came from them. So understand that some of your parents are barely fucking older than you. You're not old enough to really...
Babies raising
Yes.
babies.
And I've had to have that conversation a lot. I mean, you can't just beat up on your parents. I go, then cool, don't call your mom. You're 22 years old. If she's such a shitty person, don't take gifts from
Parents
her.
are just
Don't-
people that had kids.
Right.
That's all there are.
And that's what I tell them. I go, why do you think your mom... I go, what's your grandma like? Well, she's great. I go, how was she when your mom was 20? You think she was dope? She was probably shitty. You know what I mean? Like...
Well, people get
And they
better
just
about
look at me
that.
and I'm like, ask these questions. But I go, and if your parents are that shitty, quit fucking with them.
Right.
Don't take their
Yeah.
gifts.
Right.
Don't let them watch your fucking kids.
Don't call for help.
You know what I mean? Like
If they
they're
suck.
right.
My parents are not welcome in my life
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah.
Even my parents.
You want your parents in my life?
I mean, they're pretty dope. They have their
I'll
moments.
take 'em.
If you can get my dad to show
I'm
up
like
at your
everyone's
house,
stray
I'm
cat, so it's fine.
in. Yeah, right. Like fuck it.
I'll show up at your Thanksgiving. I don't mind. I'll bring a pie.
I cook. It's cool. Come on down. We'll make room. I just
That's
noticed,
hard though. I feel like you don't arrive at that though until you're much older. Like I recognize my parents' faults. I don't have to accept it or welcome them into it. I just recognize what they were capable of, and that's fine.
You're also trying to protect your children.
Oh, they're not welcome in their lives. No.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will do that. They'll try to protect their parents.
My kids
or,
are too
you know,
broke for
protect their
my
children.
parents to sniff around, so
Right.
maybe when they make money.
Right.
But that's a huge thing, you know, like you want to protect your kids. I have some of that in my own family. I have some people that are keeping, you know, their mom at arm's length, you know, about stuff. And I'm just like, you're allowed to do that. Raise your kids then.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. They're your kids.
Right.
Like when I have people like, my mom doesn't even want to come around my kids. And I'm like,
Then don't let her.
they're not her kids. Is it nice when you have a grandparent
It
that's
hurts.
killing it? Okay, it
You
does
want
hurt.
that grandparent.
But guess what? You're also not going over and mowing your fucking mom's grass. You're also not going over and making sure her stuff's good either. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
to
and
me,
I
it's
also
a give and
choose your
take kind
support
of thing.
system. So
Yeah.
like I have pieces. I have my dad's second wife, who is like dear to our hearts. We
Yeah.
love her.
Yeah.
She's a great grandma. My aunt, like other aunts and uncles, but
Killing
like
it.
it doesn't have to be a conventional.
No.
natural
not at all.
support system.
I mean, is it awesome when your grandma knocks out of the park? Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
we
nice when
know,
you're-
though.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, but we talk about relational diagram, and it's a bullseye, right? Of like, this is me, and then these are the people that are closest to me, where I have very open boundaries. I trust them. They add to me, I add to them, and they're safe. And then
Right.
the next circle is people who have the best intentions for me. They want the best for me, but I don't necessarily let them into everything, but they have the best intentions at heart. And that bullseye gets bigger and bigger. It's sad sometimes, because sometimes your nuclear family is not there. It's not your parents that are in that circle,
Yeah.
or even the second one. Sometimes they're three,
It's
four.
your kids.
I
sometimes
love my
they're
brother
three,
and
four
sister,
out.
but I'm not close with them.
Yeah,
I'm not
I-
close with them like I am them boys in there.
No, same.
You know, there's no way.
Same.
And it's not
Maybe
'cause-
one day.
Yeah, and it's not because I don't love them.
Well, but my husband is super close with his siblings.
Yeah.
They,
I love
mean,
families that have really close siblings. I think it's the
I
coolest
know,
thing.
it's super cool.
It's
I have
'cause
a
you
lot of
don't have
siblings,
it.
so does he. But we just have, it's just different.
Is it weird to you sometimes?
It is now because they're in my circle.
Are you close to them though?
You mean you're in their
Yeah.
circle?
Yeah.
You're in a circle together.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow
You're in a
going. I
gang,
said I'm
Kelly.
going out of town to hang out with my sister-in-law.
Oh,
that's
that's
where I'm
awesome.
going.
That's kind of cool.
That's
Yeah.
new.
That's cool. Yeah.
I don't visit my siblings.
Like I love hanging out with my stepmom and her sisters.
Yeah,
I love
it's-
it. Yeah.
But that's okay. That's a village that it takes
Yeah.
for you. You get your needs met by
I
other
hope my
people.
kids do that.
It,
I'm not sure they will like each other as adults.
nah, I
Right.
tell my
They're
kids all the
mortal
time. I'm like,
enemies?
listen,
I love it. I'll
you
be
could do it
honest.
my way, or you could do it his way.
Maybe when they're both grown. Like your kids get along great, right?
Oh my god! Like when my daughter's coming up from out of town next week, and I get to have them all three together. They get
So
along.
pumped.
Yeah, they get
My
along
heart is so full
great.
for you.
Yeah, and they love each other. But I'm very lucky, and we didn't allow them to treat each other poorly. But they also didn't grow up in the same home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very different thing when you grow up in the same home.
What anymore? What's
You know, they're
poorly?
vacation sisters.
Yeah, but they're all
you know what I mean?
only
Like,
children. Like my kids are only
Yeah.
children essentially. They are 2 weeks
Yeah.
shy of exactly 10 years apart.
Yeah.
And the oldest one is my ride or die, has known me for
Listen,
much longer than the youngest
up
one.
together.
Who will always be mad that the oldest one was born first.
Ah.
And it's just always going to be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
is.
Mine are definitely age apart a lot, and but they love each other, man.
That's nice.
Like they really, really like my daughter. Finished this year off with straight A's. I'm super proud of her, and
That's
such a
fantastic.
music. And I sent it to her sisters. I'm like, you know, and they're like,
Look!
and they both reached out to her and was like, oh my god, it's
Yeah.
so awesome.
It's a big deal.
And that's a good deal. But like, look, me and my brother and sister, we're around each other a ton, and I love them. When I'm around them, I love them. But
Sure.
I'm kind of just alone. I'm always just doing my thing and taking care of my little tribe.
yeah.
So if my brother and sister need me, if I need them, we're there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
past
100%.
that,
Right.
like, but I'm like that with my friends.
I
Like-
can't allow crazy in my life.
I
So
like-
if you're a little too crazy, I can't.
Yeah.
Physically, my health can't handle it.
My last
So-
crazy
You have a
person
crazy
killed
meter?
himself. So
I-
yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
can take like
I-
a 7.
It's
Like-
my body literally will flatline. I have as a result of my childhood trauma. So like
Fight, flight, or
You just
fight.
shut
I
down.
am
Like,
He's steady.
my POTS is strong.
Pots?
My
You said-
POTS, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm wearing
that makes more sense.
thigh high compression pants right now.
So it literally will.
So literally, I
Drop you out,
cannot
right.
handle the stress that the outside forces bring.
Uh-huh.
So that has been hard. But then I also look
how
at
do you date?
She
well,
doesn't.
Thomas.
Right.
No, that's a newer development. It was like my body just hit a wall where it was like, nope, I can no longer take this.
Right.
Because
If
on the
you
outside
can't
I'm
make the
fine,
choice,
but
I'm gonna make
inside
the
I'm 90. It's a wartime
You're like this.
at all times.
Hey, you know, that's
Yes.
that's
I
an
kept my
interesting
crazy
thing.
in, so, like-
but that parental trauma and that shit you grew up
Yeah.
with, and like even me, what we've been talking about in the last few shows, because I'm working through my own shit. me running away from things is because I grew up in some crazy shit, and I just don't. When it starts flying off the handle or somebody gets loud around me,
Which is
I'm
your
out.
go-to.
I am
Right.
fucking out. I literally walked off stage 35 minutes early a couple weeks ago because of how the fucking show was going down and how I felt like literally it was just going to shit because of a certain person that wasn't in my band but was not doing his job to the degree that he needed to be doing his job. And I dealt with it for the entire fucking night up until the end. And I just went like this, thank you, good night. And I was done. And the guys in the band are looking at me like, oh shit. Like,
Hit your
we're
cap.
way too early. And I was like, I just walked over and started pulling the cords out of my fucking amp, packing up my shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I had that certain level of like, I can only handle so much shit, good or bad.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work on it, that whole stonewalling thing, and I'm trying to work on that with my own shit. And that's from what I grew up with. Like, fuck this, I'm out.
That's where, like, with parenting, sometimes I do fail. Because I'm like, oh, this is so heavy, or the behavior was so atrocious. And I'm like, I don't know, I cannot talk to you right now because I haven't figured out what to say. So
Is
I
that your
have to
pause?
stonewall. I have to.
pause. That's not a stonewall,
And
it's a
I'll
pause.
say,
Right,
like,
yeah.
I love you very much, and I want to talk about this, and I cannot talk about this right now because I haven't figured it out.
That's a pause.
But then I drive like this
Right.
with the car in silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Get in the
that's
back seat. The
hard.
minute I'm like, get in the
Well,
back seat,
but so
she's like, oh
here's-
no.
You don't even want to look
I'm
at you.
co-pilot. yeah.
Here's-
Your elbow can't touch my elbow.
She'll try to touch my hand. I'm like, not today.
But that is how you start to change and tweak generational patterns. Is you're modeling that I'm dysregulated because you're human. And you're
What?
gonna be. You're gonna be.
I am a
gonna be,
robot,
like,
Kelly.
you
Hold your
are
tongue.
not.
Robot doctor.
Right.
Robot doctor.
But it's okay that you got upset. And it's okay that you verbalize, like, I need a minute. Because your child learned that it is okay that you have emotions and you're reacting, but you want to be mindful because you don't want to hurt their feelings. So you take a second. They'll learn that. They will see that. They're not going to see you fly off the handle and say something super hurtful and then have to come back and apologize, which
Right.
you'll do. I do. You do. Everybody
Yeah.
does it. But you're starting to tip that. Like, that is how you do it.
I
Say,
mean,
I need a
sometimes
minute.
it does preface with, who do the fuck do you think you are?
Absolutely. Sweetheart,
That's
if
okay.
you talk to me
That's
like
real.
that one more
Cannot
time, I'm going to...
believe you.
You're right.
It's never at me. It's always like a school issue.
Sure.
Like, you cannot, these
Right. You're
people
lucky. My
love you during the
stepson
day
talks to
because
me
I'm
out
not
of the
there.
side of his neck all the time. And I'm like, listen.
A lot of friends, dear friends,
Yeah.
their kids are like in the throes of it. My kids, thankfully, have never done that, but I'm also not a name
Yeah.
caller. Like, we
Oh,
just don't.
yeah. Right.
That's not
I
our
don't know how to
language.
explain it. Like,
Sure.
No, it's easy to explain. You don't speak to people that way
but
around
also,
your
like,
children.
don't fucking.
I can be that way, but I'm a snarky person. Like,
Yeah.
I will call my son an asshole. TikTok,
Yeah.
YouTube. But, like, and giggle.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, I'm not an a-hole. And I'm like, well, you're acting like it. If it walks like a
Right.
duck and it quacks like a duck.
Yeah.
Like, but
It needs
I
a
don't
nap
say
and a
that.
meal and a shower.
I don't say, but that's like my 15-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, that like we then laugh about
That's
it.
a 15-year-old. though.
Yeah. I
That's
don't.
not a 5-year-old.
Right.
Okay, if
I don't
you're
know.
talking to
Right.
your 5-year-old like that, I was like, she
My
needs her
5-year-old, my
license.
10-year-old
the
came
fuck.
out
No.
of the womb like that, though. So
Yeah.
that's where it's been hard.
Well, and
like-
he's my ride or die. I had him when
Yeah.
I was 21.
Yeah.
Thick and thin. Listen. But he laughs and he knows I love him. And that's where that relational part comes in, is there's so much depth and richness to our relationship. And that will buy you grace. That does buy you
does.
grace. That buys you grace with your parents, with your spouse,
Your
with your
friends.
friends, with
Yeah.
your coworkers.
Well, it's like
that-
teaching them, like, I still love you no matter what and want to
No
talk to you.
matter,
Even if you think I'm
yes.
disappointed in you or you're nervous, please tell me everything. And
Yeah.
that does carry into relationship.
I will talk about it. My kids
Disappoint me.
constantly
Let's
now,
talk about it.
They're turning into teenagers, and they will tell me things, and I will have to take a deep breath, be like, hold on, and they're like, "Are you mad?" No, but I don't know what I am, and my personal go-to reaction is anger.
Mine
so
is
I
sad.
have to. I never cry.
I don't cry, but it's like a
my
deep
go-to is
sadness.
irritation.
Okay.
In some spectrum of anger. But I don't want them to see that because that's not really how I feel. I just feel something else and it makes me uncomfortable. So like I present as like irked.
Yeah.
but after time, like I told my one son the other day, I was like, I'm so happy that you feel comfortable talking to me about this. And he was like, comfortable is a strong word.
Shit.
And I was like, all right, that's fair.
Jeez.
Cool, well,
But
keep
he
it
was
to
like,
yourself.
but he said he was
You're
like,
like-
I'm glad that we can. He's like, I'm glad that you care, and that we can talk about this.
He's
and
like this.
Yeah.
I'm glad you feel that way.
No, I mean, we got to that
but-
point.
yeah.
My oldest was like she tells me everything.
Mm-hmm.
Does that freak you out?
No, because I need to save her.
She was leading so strong.
Yeah.
Leading so strong. That's
no,
called an enmeshed boundary.
Because when we need help, we need to be able to find people that we can ask help
Yeah.
from. I never had people
Yeah.
to ask for help.
So you
from.
take that as a win.
It
as
is a win
parent.
because
It
then I
is,
can
it
help
is.
her solve that.
Yeah.
And she does, like, she really is very easy.
Yeah.
My oldest calls me and we have great adult conversations. She'll tell me about what's going on with her friends and pure family down there and all that. And then my middle one tells me about everything too. I mean, not everything. I'm sure there's things they don't tell me about.
God, I hope so.
But I love that they call me and really trust me
It
because
feels so good.
well, it does because I don't want to lose their trust. And I think a lot of people, once you lose your trust to your parent, it is fucking hard to get back.
That's
and
true.
I'm so scared to lose that. And the other thing is, like, when we talk about parenting, like, I would like to get it better of treating my mate with the same kind of patience I treat my children. And that's the hardest thing for me too. And the difference is your kid is, I know, right, the longest sigh
That's
ever.
that hierarchy we were talking
Okay,
about.
but here's
though.
the thing.
Yeah.
I kind of understand it because your kid isn't coming to you. If your kid was coming to you being a dick every day or complaining to you every day, you probably wouldn't show him as much grace. But when your mate does that, it starts just depleting. But I've learned through the shit that I've been going through that I will always nip that shit in the ass immediately and go, look, we're either going to go get help, we're going to figure this out, and I'm not going to let it get to that point where it's build up that resentment and where I just have no, like, I'm empty. Because the way I treat my children, I'm not short with them. They could
Right.
fuck up hard, and I'm like, baby,
Yeah.
we're going to figure this out. I've only raised my voice on my kids very small. I mean, and barely raised it. And I would immediately, like, I think I was crying, pushing a cart
The only
around.
time I raise my voice is in the morning when we're late.
Yeah, and I don't
It's
even do
not
that.
over, like,
Yeah.
big stuff.
But I remember one time just raising my voice, and after I left, I was literally like tearing up, thinking, why did I talk to her that way? And I went home, but I don't normally yell at people. I really don't. But my thing is, like, the way I was parented and the way I parent, but if I could instill that same grace to my mate, I feel like it would be much more successful because I want to treat everybody that way. And I struggled with it.
Yeah.
I really, like, looking back now, and I'm like, fuck, dude, you could have done that way better. You know what I mean? And
They're also just a human.
yeah. And it sucks because the grace that our children get, and I've always said it, treat people like you'd want somebody to treat your kid.
Well, yeah, you hope that they get that someday.
Yeah, and if you're not doing that with your mate, but I know it's because resentment builds up because of bad behavior,
Yeah.
And if your
Right.
kid was doing that, you'd be like, hey, motherfucker, you know, what
They're
are you
also
doing?
children.
Right.
These are adults we're working with.
I know, but are they?
I mean, we
Are
are.
they? Barely a little bit
Still
more than a
growing.
kid. Yeah, but
Still
I'm
growing,
saying,
yes, but I also, like, I don't know.
Yeah. You
is
know
it
right
just
from
through
wrong.
resentment?
I will work to articulate my feelings every time
Right.
and extend that grace to you because I genuinely care where you're coming from and want you to figure out how you feel about it.
Sure.
If you're willing to just be like, oh, it's fine. That doesn't work for me. I actually want you to pick that apart and figure out how you feel about that.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, so we can
Not
talk
like
and learn
I don't
and
want to
grow.
beat a dead
Right.
horse,
Yeah.
trust me. But there are
No.
certain
Some people
no,
do.
because if they're not talking about it, it's coming up later.
Sure.
Sometimes. And some people just, like, for me, I'm like Sheldon. I'm like, no, I'm good.
No, I don't want to like fight about it because I
Yeah.
don't like to fight. But if it's something that clearly was an issue or a hot topic, fucking talk about it. Don't be passive aggressive and then be like, no, it's fine. It's water under the bridge. It is not.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No, I don't trust that. That's a trap.
That could be a trap.
It's always a trap.
But you know what, though? Some people can't talk to somebody because when they try to talk back to your parents, if your parents never allowed you to speak, or they literally
Or you
every
never
time,
watch them talk.
yes,
Yeah, I
or every
never saw
time you
my
brought
parents
something
talk.
up, they're going to tell you why you're fucking wrong.
Right.
So eventually they're just
debunk
like,
it,
it's
yeah.
okay. It's fucking okay. Because every time they talk to their fucking parent, they got motherfucked, or like they just got
Right.
shut the fuck down. Eventually you don't talk.
So then for me, what it is like, I've done all of this work. And if you're in a relationship with someone that hasn't done the work or won't, or will, you see what their parents are like and they model that and they're like, yeah, I see it's not right, but I'm not actually going to deviate from that either.
Or how to.
You cannot work with that. There's nothing you can do about that.
No. No. And that's hard, and that's a hard thing to admit when you love them and you're already being
Yeah.
intimate
Oh,
with
yeah.
them. You
Well,
share
and
a
everybody
dwelling with
wants-
them. You might have a child with them.
And
You definitely
people-
share a lease with them. I mean, it gets out of hand really fucking quick.
Well, people want to. They want to have hope.
Purgatory.
They want to have hope that you can change and you can. But like we've touched
Or
on
they
that.
quiet quit. Yeah.
You want them to change for what? And that's kind of like because your parents had it right. Your
I would
parenting
want them to
style
change
See, and that's the
to
thing
be
is like,
healthy.
if they're okay with it, then you can't really agree to disagree though.
not when you're parenting.
Yeah.
I am working with somebody right now who her and her husband have drastically different religious views. I mean,
What?
very,
How?
they're done raising their kids.
Oh.
What? What? Nelson?
He believes
they're
in
gonna-
aliens, doesn't he?
It's
Hillary
drastic,
Clinton.
but like
Lizard people.
Me, I'm like, how's that work? How's that look like? But her response was like, our kids are done. That is what catches most people up. Are we going to raise them this way or this way? They're all out of the house. So she's like, do I worry about his eternal soul? Sure.
She can worry about mine.
Does it keep us up at night? Do we bicker about? No, you go do whatever you have to do. I'm going to be over here doing whatever. Like there comes maturity with age, and you pick the hills you want to die on. It's not that
You're telling me they're fighting him because he's picked a religion and she's picked a different one?
they're not fighting. That's what I'm saying. They're not fighting about that.
Oh, they fought when they had kids about it.
They got married now that her kids are grown. They just got married, so it is not a big deal.
Oh, okay.
It is not
I
a big
didn't
deal.
understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
no,
I'm sorry.
They don't fight about it. She's like 10 years ago.
No way.
No, there's no way because they would have fought how to raise her children in which religious view.
It has come out of my mouth in bitter moments that I said I will never have another woman live with me as long as my kid, I'm still raising my kid. And
I will not.
it's hard. It's hard because in the same breath, I mean, I have a year, so it's not like anything crazy. But it put a huge stress in my life about it. And I wish it wouldn't have because, and it wasn't because she didn't love them. She loves my kids, man. Like, adores them. So it's not like a
Yeah,
shitty
right, yeah.
thing like
Right.
that. It's just very different the way she was parented versus the way I parent. Because I won't even say the way I was parented, the way I was currently parenting. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it was
Your
a real
approach
struggle.
was
And that's why,
different.
that's, this conversation about how you were raised and how you expect other people to raise your kid. Because we've all heard people sitting around like, that kid needs their ass whooped.
Ugh.
It's like, well, then go whoop their ass. And then whoop their parents' ass because you're going to fight them too. Like, I don't, like, show me where that works. You know what I mean? Like, it does work sometimes. When they're very little and they don't understand words, yes, you have to smack their hand or tap them on their little diapered butt, and it kind of gets their attention. But once they understand words, listen, if I had a teenage boy and he put his hands on my wife, I would knock the shit
Right.
out of him. I don't give a fuck. Put me in jail. Listen,
Right.
and every time I get out, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. You ever do it again, I'll go to jail every fucking time.
Well, it's different. We're not
Yes.
talking about raising different types
Yes.
of children. Like, we are raising women.
Yes. And it's a different, for me, like, mates that want to tell you how to raise your kids and things like that. But how do you maneuver? When you're with someone you have a kid with, it's hard because you think things
I can't
differently.
take advice from people that don't have kids.
Is that hard for you?
Oh, fuck yes.
It's not hard for me.
It is hard for me, unless, again, depending on what their credentials are. Like, stay in your lane.
me
You
see
can
your
make
resume.
suggestions,
Right, yeah.
but also what
Have you done it?
what do you know?
That doesn't freak me out at all, because I used to kind of feel that, like, what do you fucking
Well,
know?
I'm also it's men without children.
Oh,
Think
see,
about it. So,
be very
like,
specific. That's a different
It's very
vibe.
different. Yeah. Men
with-
without
well,
children,
okay,
mind your
women
business.
without children have the same kind of things, but listen, even people with children fucking say some dumb
Yeah,
shit.
they sure do.
Not to be an asshole, they almost say
You
more
don't
dumb
have to
shit.
parents are just people that had kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair
You
enough.
didn't take a class.
So it's
I
not,
should.
you know,
I
because
should have.
You had to watch that one video before you took them home.
I mean, I watched.
I
a
don't think
lot
I
of
watched
videos.
anything. I was
Yes,
just like,
you-
oh,
You
now I
can
have a
never
baby.
shake a baby. You have to watch that.
Only when they cry, Kelly.
Till they stop.
Yeah.
That's the video you had to watch. You might have been nursing and or sleeping through it, high on painkillers, but you
High as
definitely
fuck.
watched that movie.
So, if you guys ever want to shake a baby, call 234-200-5949. We'll get that up on the screen for you, so you can call us
We
and tell
will
us how you
not.
like to shake a baby, whether it's by the leg or by the body or by the head. Just kidding. Don't shake babies.
I've never wanted
Never.
to shake my kids. Just men.
Like a drink. Stir them. Don't shake them.
Lay them down and walk away.
Love them.
In a
Find
safe
somebody who will.
space.
Right. On a wedge.
No baby ever.
Maybe they're gassy.
yeah. Nobody ever died
Phone a
from
friend.
crying. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So taking advice. So I learned this a while back that I got really sick. And when people would talk to me about cancer who didn't have cancer, I would just immediately shut down and look at them and go, what the fuck do you fucking know? In my head. And I'm a really easygoing guy.
Sure.
But in my head, I was like, what the fuck do you fucking know? And I'm sure that's what moms do about
Well, because
fucking-
you're surviving something that someone has no idea what it's been like.
So here's what's crazy. I was told so many times, Thomas, you need to speak at support groups for cancer survivors. And I was like, why in the fuck would I want to talk at a fucking support group for people who didn't die? Like, what are you sad about? You didn't fucking die. What are you still fucking, you're still.
You got a koozie and you got discharged.
Right. New
Billy Bob
hairdo. You know what I
Thornton.
mean? A tan line, a
Yeah,
new
sure,
hairdo.
right.
It's cool. So you're probably missing some parts. So listen, but what in my mind was like, you're not sick. What the fuck are you upset about? You're fucking living. Like, shut the fuck up, you bunch of sissies. Fast forward, I knew somebody who had lost a child and she was really struggling. And she was talking about it. And her family was very worried about her because she was not doing well. And then fast forward, I tattooed her and she was not doing well. Next time she goes, I think I turned a page. And I was like, what? I'm not trying to share her story. But anyway, she ran into somebody that she'd worked with for a long time that she didn't know that she also experienced the same exact thing. And the lady came up there and was like, you seem different lately. And she's in her head, she's like, bitch, no shit, I'm fucking different. Fucking, you know. But then she goes, hey, I also suffered the same loss as you. And she was like, oh my God. And it
There's
immediately
others.
brought her down
Yeah.
like this. And then she started talking to some support groups. I swear, the next fucking day, I had a girl come in my shop that had cancer that I watched because I tattooed her before with social media and stuff, and I saw her go through her thing. She sat in the same fucking chairs as I did. The exact same chairs. She went to the same fucking hospital, and I talked to her while I tattooed her for 2 hours. And I'm going to be honest, I've never felt that connection with somebody about cancer ever in my
You
experience.
needed that conversation.
I didn't know. I didn't. In that moment, that week, I understood the power of
Connection.
a support group.
Your black little heart.
Yes, it pumped just twice. But it made me understand
Chipped a
how
little.
important it was. But it made me understand how fucking important it was. And even though someone's doesn't have children, they were a child. And I understand, but
Yes.
you've had some guys that were
Right,
doing
you
some
have
dumb
said that
shit.
to me before.
You've had guys saying some dumb shit, okay? And I've had girls say some dumb shit to me. And I'm just like going, but I've had my mom say shit to me. I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? You're telling me how to fucking, like, really? Like, we've had everybody do that to us. So, I mean, I guess the other thing would be, like, find somebody else who's a really good parent and have sex with them. Is that fair? But past that, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
You just don't. You
Don't.
just keep that double life.
Glory hole parenting.
Yes.
That's it.
1000%. Because there is a certain point where you're like,
You give up.
I'm only in a relationship for me. I'm in it for me, for my me time. My kids
Yeah.
don't need that.
I super enjoy.
They are very fulfilled.
See, I've done both. I've kept my fucking life super separate where you wouldn't even meet my
I've
children.
done both. We know this.
Yes. You
And
won't
it
even
was-
meet my children. Like, nope, ain't happening.
It's phenomenal.
And then I
It's good until it
found,
wasn't.
no, I'll be honest. Once I started really sharing my kids with someone, I loved it so much because they got to see how amazing my children were.
Yeah.
But it comes
I
at a price.
covet my children, though. That's the difference. Where my mom exposed me to everybody in the world.
So you're just knee jerking from that. Again,
No,
your
but
parental things will change
For
you.
me, it's a safety thing.
That's what I mean.
It's a safety thing, but it is also like you don't need to share your children with everybody.
No.
Some people do.
Oh, I'm
and
not
some
saying
people don't.
everybody. No.
I don't. We are like little introverts, and I don't want to share them with everybody or expect them to
Expose them to everybody.
develop relationships with people that they don't want to. I don't need to do that with them.
They have enough love and support.
I want an adult relationship.
I have a funny story.
An adult relationship.
I get it. I have a funny
I'm
story
a gigolo.
about a gigolo doctor robot.
Ugh, not a doctor.
So, I hear people come in my shop, and I have this story that I'd always tell. I had a woman, and I'm like, hey, are you seeing anybody? Because we're just talking, and I know her. And she's like, yeah, I'm seeing. I goes, is it serious? Just normal fucking talk. I mean, that's not that serious. I mean, like, they haven't met my children yet. So it's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's how people gauge it. It's
Hasn't been a year yet.
Right. And they go, he's not met my children. And I go, I mean, has he met your vagina?
Those are not the same thing.
Watch.
Thomas.
No, I understand. But listen. And I go, and she goes, yeah. I go, I'm trying to understand, like, if he shouldn't be, if he can beat your vagina, you think he's not good enough to beat your kids, but he's good enough to possibly have a kid?
100%.
Yes, I understand. She's like, yeah, you can beat my vagina like crazy. You're not beating my fucking kids. No,
Yes.
listen, I understand it.
That's
But-
okay.
okay, but you're having.
your boundary is.
Now listen, if you're having a not serious relationship or not, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's very different kinds of relationships. But my thing is this: if you're in a real relationship with somebody and you're texting them good morning every morning and you're doing all this shit, that's a relationship. To me, like, what do you want out of it? If you want a partner that you spend your life with and you share your children with, that's one thing. If you want to have an adult relationship on the side and that's your thing, that's a private life. That's your private life. That's a different situation. But I almost felt like this woman was dangling her kids like, well, he doesn't get to meet my kids yet. I'm like, he met your vagina.
That's not fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I misunderstood where you're
that's
going
what I'm
with that.
saying. Like, she was like almost like, well, it's he,
It's not official.
No, in that regard, that falls
Right.
back to something we've talked before, where if you can't reach a milestone with somebody or a crisis situation, then what are you doing with them?
oof. Now that's a whole nother thing. Like, if you can handle some dirt with somebody and you can actually sit with them and go through some shit with them.
But if you do it and it just is very clear what the roles are, and it's very okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Booty calls are one thing,
Yeah.
but booty
Or
calls,
even a casual date.
a casual date.
dating.
But
Casual
casual
dating
dating
between
isn't
two
texting
adults.
them every day.
Could be. It depends on what you.
That's not casual. Because I'll tell you what, if your husband was casually talking to somebody every single day, it would be considered a relationship.
That's two different things.
I understand. But I'm saying, but
Because
when I started,
we are not
Yeah,
casual.
Kelly, please
Oh.
chime in.
Yes.
but this is what I'm saying is when I started not intermeshing those things and setting those boundaries up with myself, what is it really like? A booty call is like every 3 months you go, hey, what's up? What's up? You free?
no.
Okay. But I'm saying, like, I almost feel like we keep people at arm's length, like, well, this isn't really a relationship.
Well, we've talked about that before. I think it all comes down. I feel like it comes down to transparency. People would be
Back
shocked.
to those parents.
People
different
would be shocked
Parents are
at
also
what
dying to have
they
adult relationships.
really do.
that are
They
simple.
they
Yeah.
really do. But I think people would be shocked at the acceptance that the other person has if you were just honest.
Like, I don't
can't
want you around my
tell-
kids.
I can't tell you how many,
Honesty is
Listen,
people
girls don't
I
wanna
know.
hear
It
that
is the
shit.
most attractive thing in a
Yes.
person.
I don't want a relationship. It's just been a while.
Right.
That's a thing. That is a thing that people
No
can
one
say.
has put their
and
hands on me
yes.
in forever.
That is it. I don't have my kids this weekend. They're at their dad's.
Read what
You
you
got
may
a minute?
from
I'm
that.
not going to your hotel.
Can't come back to the
no,
Bat Cave.
can't
Let's-
co- right. But there's so many people are in the same boat as we are.
They are.
And all you have to do is find somebody who meets you where
We gotta
you're
start a
at,
website
and
for that.
that's okay.
Parentsandfucking.com.
Well,
No?
but on a
Doesn't
dating
really roll
site
off the tongue.
nowadays, they will ask you if you're looking for a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Are you looking for something casual? Are you looking for
I'm
something
not looking to move in
open?
with
Are
you.
like,
I don't want to merge finances. I don't want to clean your house on my weekend
no.
without my
Right.
kids.
But would I like to stop looking? Yes.
I'd
so
love
can
to
I
eat
put
dinner.
you in this over here?
Let's eat chips and laugh and talk about parenting
Yes.
and then make out.
Right. And can I call you next month so I don't have to go find another one?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or no. Like, be
Or
honest
no.
with me.
Do you think most
Yeah.
people could honestly maneuver within that? Very
No.
few people could.
No, very few.
Very
We are
few
a small
people could.
population.
Because then you catch feelings.
And
A lot of
but you
people
can
do.
still have feelings in that realm. You can.
You can. You can.
What are you saying?
You know exactly what the fuck I'm saying. Most people cannot separate those kind of
They
things.
should. It's-
They want to
it's great.
covet you because if you're doing that with them, they're going to think you're doing that with other people, even if you tell them, like, I'm not.
Well, that's
No, I
because
don't have
people
time.
don't understand what the levels of intimacy are.
Right.
My very best friend, I have the most intimate relationship with.
Right.
I don't want to sleep with her.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Thomas,
But
we are very close friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think people develop, and teens specifically, to go back to parenting, kids have no understanding of what a close friend is, a platonic friendship. Just because
Right.
I really love you and I care about you and you're super supportive doesn't mean I'm gay.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm bi.
Wait, what?
It doesn't. We'll have a whole
You hear
other
that,
show
boys?
about that. But there's connection, and I
Yeah.
feel like there's so many different levels of connection, and my best friend falls in a whole category that I never even knew existed.
Right.
So why can't you meet somebody and date them and create a new category? Why can't you?
Why can't you just
Listen.
build a support system with them?
Yes.
And it's I don't know. To me it feels very healthy. Maybe
Right.
it sounds very like the Villages.
No.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but
I mean, you're definitely trying to
am I a
narrate
new
your
age?
own story.
I'm a cult leader.
Yes, you are.
But to me
is
it
what I
makes
want.
sense.
Spiritual Learning Center, Jennifer.
Your needs make sense to you,
My needs,
and that is
yeah.
okay.
Well, you've tried it other ways.
I've tried every fucking way.
I know, that's what I'm saying. And you're going like this. Okay, I'm taking in all this data, and I'm realizing this. I don't need you to help me raise my fucking kids. I don't need your fucking money. I don't need you to do
Right.
shit for me. But make out with me, eat some food with me, and
Tell me I'm
not
pretty.
make my life
Tell me I
fucking
look
difficult.
good for over 40.
Right.
Yeah, make me
And bring
laugh.
me
I
sushi.
love to laugh. Yeah, and I like to eat. Girls gotta eat, you know.
and
That's
then go
fair.
and then go home. Yeah.
That's fair. You know what I mean? But most guys and most women, like if I tried to say that to a woman, hey, just to let you know, I don't really want you around
No,
my
you look like
fucking
a
kids.
dirtbag.
Yes.
I am a dirtbag though. It is true. Like I look like a dirtbag. That's why we are
Dr.
friends.
Dirtbag.
Dr.
Stat.
Dirtbag.
Calling Dr. Dirtbag.
Yes.
But I understand. But okay, now you could probably get away with it because there's a guy that's going to be like, hey, she's dope. And
No, I don't get away with it because boys are like, oh yeah, I'm okay with that, and then they're like, I love you.
Oh, they love bomb.
Seriously?
And
And
then
you're
they're
like, we just
"Why
had
are you like
tacos.
this? You're like, this is literally who I always said I was. I won't love anyone else. I can love you from afar once a month.
Yeah.
That's
Trust
it.
me. I'll think
This is
about you
my
every
wedge.
day.
This is what I got.
I will pine for you. I don't have any more time.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Oof. Yeah, most people aren't going to be okay with
No,
that.
and that's okay.
You need a
And
stewardess.
I get it.
A male stewardess.
I do.
There's
Without
apps for
gonorrhea.
that.
Truck driver.
There's apps for that.
No lot lizards.
Profiles.
No lot lizards.
Maybe I'm the lot lizard.
You might be.
You-
Whatever game they want to play. Whatever weird fucking kink you want to get into, you're like knocking on his truck and the cop comes, you're like, ma'am. You're like, no, it's my boyfriend for real. And they're like, I just watched your podcast. You don't want a fucking boyfriend. You're a
But
fucking
it's
lot
the
lizard
second
doctor.
Tuesday of the month. This is
Right.
it.
So yeah, most people are going to be okay with it. You might be. I mean, honestly, I don't know. Hey, if you want that
It
kind of
sounds kinda
relationship,
poly.
find like
That's the other thing. It's like we've had that
Yeah.
discussion many times where I was like, ugh, no, I don't share.
you're
And
kind
now
of
I
sharing.
think like maybe I would though because I don't care what.
I
they
always
do.
say everybody's sharing. The other person just doesn't know.
But I don't think I care. I
well,
wouldn't care.
you're kind
As long
of
as
throwing
they're
up the white
consistent for
flag
you.
right now. I feel like you're just like this. I'm
Right,
fucking
I'm
tired.
done.
I just want to
done.
get fucked and I want to
Nobody-
eat. And I just want to be left
wanna
the fuck
laugh.
alone.
I want you to have your own interests.
You
Tell
want
me
to be
about
a
your
man in
interests.
1955.
I do. I actually think I was
Mad
meant
Men.
to be like a,
You're
a
on
gay
Mad
leather
Men.
daddy.
No,
like,
you're on
for
Mad
sure.
Men.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then you go
Here
back
I
to your
am stuck
normal
in this
life
hot female body.
when you need a beard
Damn
and a hairy
it.
body and some leather. Jesus
Damn it.
Christ.
With this great hair.
So, I mean, but that's hard to, I mean, other than having a website dedicated to that, I don't know how the fuck you're going to find that.
You're not. That's why I am the last unicorn.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you're, because sharing, I mean,
I don't want to share.
you would share
But-
if they gave you those other things.
But if
But you would worry
if
about
I
your health.
understood- Yeah. It's not worth that. Every day. Ugh.
Jesus. Leather daddy to, oh, Jesus. It's not easy to, because you're trying so many different things. Like, you're just putting in codes. Like, you're like, okay, every 3 years, you're like this. Nope.
When the older you
Nope.
get, you don't want to like change who you are. You want to like yourself. I like myself.
Well, you work so hard.
Yeah.
You have put
It
in
took
the
me
work to be. Yes.
40 years to figure out my sense of self. I was never allowed to do that
Right.
Yeah.
in my home. I wasn't allowed to do that in relationships. I'm finally at that time.
Flip the whole word the bird.
Yeah.
You're like,
Because to
Right.
find somebody that would have the same kind of schedule and be okay with that, and also be attracted to them, and also not want to murder them, and also like the way they smell, and also like the way they eat, and also, you know what I mean, like all these
I hope they don't
things.
chew with their mouth open.
Yeah, it's
They have
like
nice wrists. Like,
it's a big deal.
yeah.
Isn't it funny what little weird
So
things?
true.
No,
Do you clip your
seriously.
fingernails? I fucking hope so.
Right,
Please tell me you maintenance your car on a regular basis.
reasonably. You have a
Right,
car.
Your teeth are
your
white.
You know what? You should
Checklist
find a
is
guy that lives out in the
so
country.
specific.
Listen, guys, you need a guy that's out in the country, and it literally takes him a month to walk to your house
Yes.
and walk home.
yeah. He will.
It is
or
a
like,
journey.
He lives in London.
It's a pilgrimage.
He comes here.
I am
once
worth
a month.
every
Yeah,
minute.
maybe a good
Just to check
serial
in.
killer truck driver. You know,
Circles back. He's
Yeah.
not cheating.
He's just making lamps.
He has hobbies. What is it?
he's cleansing. He's setting them free.
He wants to be healthy for you once a month. Oh my god.
That's not a bad idea. Good luck with that one.
Fuck off, Thomas.
So send us a call 234-200-5949 if you just want to
You'd like
bang
to
it
be
out
Jennifer.
once a month and not raise their fucking kids. Most guys would be like, this sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah, most, but I don't want most. I want that 3%.
Yeah, you got to have a decent record collection and you got to eat good food.
You got to be into some weird shit too.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about your weirdest like hobbies. I like people with hobbies.
You like weirdos.
I like people that are into their own shit.
Yeah.
People that are like,
Because you're just hoping they're
takes up
so
their
into
time.
their...
I'm into my own shit.
No, she wants them to be so
want
in their
it-
own shit that they don't have any time to
Yes.
fuck with her.
I need you to have hobbies that take up 99% of your time
Right.
so that I am also just
So I
the
can spend
sliver.
all of my time listening to audiobooks.
Yeah. And a not so tender
with
podcast.
you
Yes.
not on my couch.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
very tender, actually.
So tender.
Not so not tender.
Sorry. We get off the rails.
We do get off the rails, but listen,
We don't
if
need to
you
talk about
have
me. I'm already in therapy.
take some time to realize how you were raised and how much that's affecting your current relationship, good or bad. Take some time to really go through those things and understand it. And you don't have to be so hard on your fucking parents because it doesn't work. Just to let you know, it makes you think you feel better when you start screaming and yelling at them. But to be honest with you, it really doesn't change their behavior unless you're doing it in a kind, nice way, or don't fuck with them.
Yep.
But the way you treat your current or hold them to a certain standard because you're trying to do it better than your parents or the same shitty way, that's probably going to fuck your kids up too. And if you want to have a part-time person to fuck you,
There's an app for that.
there's an app for that.
There's so many. Guys, you have no idea.
I'm just kidding.
I can only imagine. I'm not on them, but how could there not be?
Yeah, I'll be honest. The whole casual thing for me I can't do it anymore. I've
No,
done
it's a
it.
lot of work.
I can't.
Ugh.
I can't even. It freaks me the fuck out right now. Like, I can't even I can't even think about it. It makes me uncomfortable.
Getting
like,
to know people's hard. You don't want to get to know people.
yeah, not
You
just
really
that.
don't.
I got used to really, like I said, sharing my family and my girls with a mate, and I fucking loved it. I loved it so much that I was like, finally, I felt like part
This is
of
why you
this
need a
thing.
platonic mate and then a side piece.
Yeah, I don't think I don't have that kind of juggling time. And honestly, like, it doesn't appeal to me anymore.
No.
When I was searching around when I was young and just being super destructive, that kind of made sense to me. And at my point in my life right now, I'm enjoying watching my daughter live her life and live her senior year. And I'm excited about that this year, watching my other daughters thrive and do well. Unless somebody really fits with me, like, it doesn't even make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be like adding trailers onto the back of my Bronco for no real good reason.
Well, that and like if somebody does checks all those boxes and fits right into it, are you really ready for that?
No, I'm
Yeah.
currently no fucking way. I'm not even remotely close
Right.
to even being like ready to even look at even thinking about it.
But, so you don't look.
Yeah.
I don't.
Don't look. You know what? Because
Yeah.
I don't. I
it's
don't
not
give two
just about
shits.
the right person. It's also
I
about
don't
the right
entertain
time.
people.
Yeah.
I don't. Here's
It's about the right Thomas.
So I'm gonna finish on this. That's fucked up. Hashtag right, Thomas. I could see my uncle
You're
like,
welcome.
what did he say? So I was talking to a really dear friend of mine, and I love her so much, and she's going through some shit right now. She's struggling with some health issues, and we were talking, and she's like, I need an update with your love life. And I was like, I feel like I have a virus, and it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't kill me, it doesn't hurt my friends, but it either slowly makes a girl that I'm dating sick or long term makes her sick.
Yeah.
And I said, and she goes, Jesus Christ, Thomas. And I go, I don't know how else to fucking explain it. I'm not
There's
being
the update.
right. I'm not
We
being
ruin people.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not being dramatic. And she goes, and she was so fucking on point. And she goes, Thomas, you cannot go into the rest of your life bringing that into it, or is all you will get.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you're a badass bitch, and you literally just snapped me the fuck out of it. Because if I keep dragging that around, like, I'm going to make you sick.
Right. And
In my head, I'm going to make you sick. I'm going to make her sick.
Knife or a leech? Which one do you want?
Right.
Both sound like shit.
Yeah. And I was just like, fuck. But that's how, honestly.
hard, though.
That's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not trying to get anybody sick right now.
No, because it's like pattern recognition.
It is. But how much of that pattern did I create myself?
But
And
how
I
much
got
did
it
you
to-
just choose wrong?
No, not all of it. Sometimes I did, but there's times I haven't. I have definitely fucking like grabbed handfuls of that shit and threw it into a good
Yeah.
woman. And I've taken enough time, not enough. I've been taking a lot of time to self-reflect and go, listen, motherfucker, you do everything pretty well that you do. Why is this? And you could say, you're picking the
Yeah.
wrong person. Listen, Stockholm Syndrome's real. You can fall in love with somebody who's fucking detaining you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just know I have to take personal responsibility for my own shortcomings because I don't want to keep hitting repeat.
No, I get
You know what I
that.
mean? And when
Yeah.
I've been as close
hurts,
as
it
I've ever
sucks.
been. You know what I mean? Like, I've been as close as literally I've ever been to having that, like, peace that, like, this feels good. We can walk next to each other. We can do
Yep.
this thing. Thrives, kills it. And it's still
seeps in.
same fucking end result. That's me. That's my shit. And
Yeah.
I'm like going, I can't keep fucking doing this. And dude, parental shit, family shit, past relationship shit, ignorance, unwilling to fucking change because I think I'm fucking smart.
If you could just prioritize them.
Oh, jeez.
Well, and that's why we do what we do, right?
It is.
That's why we're here.
So that my thing is this: work on that shit and like figure it out. But like when I was talking to her about that, and she snapped me out of it, and she goes, "You can't think that because you will take that shit the fuck into the next one." I was like, I knew. I can tell you where I was driving when she
Right.
said it to me, and I was like, she's fucking right because she's working so hard on making herself,
Yeah.
and she's grown so much, and I was like, fuck me. This, but she's fucking right. But that's the only way I could explain it. And if you feel that way, like I fucking make everybody sick, My friends love me. My friends think I'm dope. Their wives think I'm dope. Everybody thinks I'm fucking great. And I'm like, everybody thinks I'm great, but the motherfucker that I want to think I'm great.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So on that happy note, everybody have a fucking great day and fucking piss off, okay? Send us some fucking emails, send us some fucking phone numbers, and text us and all that happy horse shit. Kelly, have a wonderful trip. Jennifer, good luck finding your booty call once a month.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you.
Thanks for having me. I had a
So-
blast.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.